Man, I can't wait to introduce people to some of those old memes. All right, and good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell, and welcome back to part 2 of an Enclave mission we started last week with my 3 fine feathered friends here. Let's introduce ourselves, beginning from left to right on my screen.
Hi, I'm Ray. I don't know if you wanted more than that.
Perfectly fine. And Greg.
Hi, I'm Greg, also known as Lethal Butterfly in some places, and I am a longtime player of the Legacy game and very excited for this edition of Enclave.
Lovely. And lastly,
Hi, I'm Jonny. That's it.
wonderful. And let's do a brief introduction to your characters. We obviously had these created, or I mean, most of you created them well in advance, but we officialized them at the beginning of last session. And to give a brief introduction, give me like a 2 to 3 line intro to your character in the same order as before.
All right, so I am playing an Amazon named Hippolyta, who is a Thane, and she is a young sort of heir apparent to a long line of Amazonian queens, and she has decided to join the Enclave to go out and see the world, so that sort of when she comes back, she'll know sort of what's out there, so she can better defend her people.
Such as, but not limited to, men, which was a...
What is this strange thing, men?
And next.
I am playing Ariadne, who is a wanderer and, specifically in terms of character design, a witch. She is an elderly woman who used to be very into sort of like online forums where she learned most of her witchcraft, but she decided to go traveling at some point, and she discovered a love for the open road and has joined the Enclave in her old age to further broaden her horizons.
Lovely. And lastly.
Hi, I am playing as a character named Oren, who is a librarian, and they're an android, and they used to be an archaeologist, but they got fired because they were stealing artifacts because they liked them too much. So now they travel the world, or the manifold, I believe, and want to take things that they can't.
Lovely. So, to give a brief summary from last time, I'm going to be asking you all to chime in. The rough summary, as best I can quickly go over it, is that you all were sent to a forested moon well out into space, where a ship transporting people in cryostasis has crashed. These people went into stasis to do a long space travel. It's not a big ship by any means, and held about, like a 24 or so people. And it was piloted by a brother-sister duo, Tien and Telsa, who you met last time. All that you know is that they crashed somewhere in the range of 1 to 2 days ago, though Orem's experimentation seems to indicate a lapse in the black box that may indicate they were here much longer. The ship, from when it crashed, was overgrown with giant roots, seemingly within the 2-day span they were here. The forest here is gigantic, and you have been all investigating that since the ship crashed. All of the people on board have vanished, including the pods they were stored in, with many signs of draggage and wreckage inside of the ship, presumably showing that they were pulled out by force, and in some cases ripped clean from the ship's walls. Some of the last things you heard were that there was a voice whispering away off in the forest that was whispering something that almost sounded like "free us," but could not be known for sure. And Ariadne had just performed a fork in the road, determining with some very cool manifestation that it seems that at least some part of where you want to be going to some degree is a flowered meadow just a little ways away from the crash site. Anything you would all like to add to that summary? Anything I'm missing, or any context that someone just dropping in now might want to see in order to fully understand what's going on?
Yeah, so Hippolyta, in order to sort of facilitate the exploring the fork in the road thing, used the to arms ability to give Ariadne a shovel, and then she did some horrifying stuff with it. So
Yeah.
And
yes, Jonny.
oh, I was gonna say, and I use knowledge as power to make a book that could teach Ariadne how to do this kind of botany that she needs to do.
Yeah, lunar botany, I think was what it was. Yeah,
Yeah, lunar botany. So
excellent.
it's in your hands, Ariadne. Go
And
ahead.
Greg, what would you add?
Might be pertinent to mention the NPCs that we have met so far, the crew of the ship.
Yeah, Tien and Telsa, how would you summarize their personalities thus far from what you have seen, Greg?
I would say, well, we know that they're brother and sister. They both seem competent and a bit antsy to get things done, and there is like maybe a little bit of rivalry going on between them.
Yeah, I would say between the two, Telsa is slightly more hypochondriac, and Tien is slightly more, maybe not lax, but at the very least standoffish.
And they're both very amused by the fact that Hippolyta has never seen a ship or a queen of a ship or a, ambidextrous archer before, so...
Indeed. Many new things to discover. Anything lastly you all want to add, or are we ready to drop back into things? I would say that the last thing I would add is that Ariadne, thanks to knowledge's power, has a magical effect on her right now, you used fork in the road on the shovel to make it so that enchanted...
I used by the wayside on the shovel.
Oh, pardon. Thank you. By the wayside on the shovel. To make it so that dirt that you dig turns into little creepy spider things that will also help you dig. And to make sure I'm not forgetting this, the enhancement off of knowledge's power was, do you remember?
I believe it was... Oh, we didn't decide a specific enhancement, did we?
Excellent.
That's right.
We will begin with that. That's perfectly fine. In that case, let's jump back into things. Ariadne has been passed this shovel has used by the wayside on it, and we will take it from when Orem was conjuring this particular use of knowledge's power. You already know that you're going off of lunar botany. Now you can pitch a magical effect for the reader to receive that is related to lunar botany.
In this case, the downloader.
Yes.
Right. I do have a question for Ariadne.
Yeah.
So you are more spiders and like the web, correct? Like
are you asking this in character or out of character?
If I was asking in character, it would have to have been before I created the Knowledge's Power book. So if we wanted to reverse to there, I could be doing that.
Yeah, let's revert to there and just take it from that point.
Right. Yeah. So Ariadne, what would you say your specialty is? Is it spiders and webs, or what's happening here?
Well, I'd say it's witchcraft with a focus on, our 8-legged friends and on weaving, knitting, general thread work, so to speak.
And web development.
Web development, of course.
Mycelium is kind of like a web, but for like fungus and plants.
Indeed it is.
It's also similar to the internet. So if you'd mentioned that you'd love to have known about lunar botany, if I can give you this knowledge with a hint of a little sprinkle of being able to read the web of mycelium, would that help you with what you're doing?
Potentially. How would you be doing this?
Oh yeah, it's really cool. It's just like this, and I like clap my hands together, and then from the center of my hands, a digital book starts to form, but then it downloads into Ariadne's brain, and a little loading bar goes across the front of her face.
Excellent. I believe I did give this description last time of it's an absolute rush of information. I think the analogy I gave was something like binging blogs or something all night long, but experienced in a single second.
In an instant, yeah.
And I think as this process begins, but before it starts rushing proper, Ariana's going to be like, "Wait, what kinds of psychic permissions does this require? Is it been malware checked? Is it?"
That's too late. Already gone through.
And as the lunar botany kind of downloads into her mind, it's incredibly vivid. It's beautifully intricate, and the magical effect starts to set in neatly as well. And Jonny, fire away.
The magical effect will be Ariadne can understand, translate, and read what information is sent back and forth from plants on mycelium. So when she digs, she can connect into that web as if she was getting into the internet.
I am going to add one thing. I'm going to make one slight change to that, which is that it requires her to touch it with her hand. That's the only change I will make.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Ariadne, you are fully aware that you have this new power available to you. after being affected by knowledge's power, what would you like to do?
Well, reminded me to ask the Enclave to do a virus check when we get back.
Don't trust me.
I would like to survey the surrounding area and try to determine what direction we might find a flower bed in.
Absolutely.
From the plants and from sort of kind of summarizing the ecosystem. What would flowers need? What conditions around us would indicate that there might be a more open space free from trees nearby? Things like that.
Yeah. So from last time, your fork in the road indicated a little bit to this end. Obviously, for anyone watching, if there are discrepancies between this time and last time, that's just how it goes with Enclave. We go for the gist and then pick up the thread from where we find it. And so as you are looking out and kind of observing, you can see that the big tree that the ship is like being primarily enrooted by does seem to like lead to a something of a break in the gigantic forest. There is like more of a gap between it and the next tree over than between it and the other one that is enrooting the tree. And so that seems like some sort of route that might be able to lead to something further. The knowledge that you've gained from your new lunar botany knowledge would also indicate that the trees that are growing in this area not only are likely not nearly as old as you might initially believe, but also grew to this size at enormous speed. Meaning that if they have grown this big and have a bit of a gap between them, it probably means it's because no plants can grow there rather than no plants have grown there yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I would like to lead the group along the way in the direction of my hunch.
And Hippolyta,
And
let's tap over to you before we get too deep into that.
Well, I have a bit of an idea, but sort of it seems like Ariadne has sort of a clearer vision of what to do here than I do. So I'm sort of happy to follow along. But sort of as we're getting closer, what I am going to kind of be on the lookout for, because I remember previously when we talked to the siblings, they said that they'd like cut at some of the roots, but that they would regrow really fast. And so the idea that I had previously was, okay, maybe we could sort of like, I don't know, cut into a root and then sort of keep it apart such that like maybe we can like see basically, is this just it's growing really fast, or is it just that there's like an entity that's like healing, to figure out sort of what the difference is there. So that's what I'm going to be kind of keeping on the lookout for, is if there's anything that kind of looks like anything that would indicate sort of what the nature of these trees is, if it's like just that they're very sort of vital, or if they're actually, if sort of, the way in which they're sort of connected sort of magically is different from that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I'm trying to think of how you might, like, what might give you clues as to that just from glancing over them. Like, do you have any things you might be specifically looking for, or things that might cue you in?
So, I mean, one thing that I think would definitely I'd be on the lookout for is like, in a normal forest you have like bits of like tree fall and stuff. And my guess is that sort of if these were like entities that were like not normal trees, you would see less of that, right? Because it would be just sort of like I mean, for lack of a better term, like a tree creature sort of moving forward rather than the natural progression and succession of a forest. So sort of I'd be on the lookout for just like normal tree fall and like, is there a suspicious absence of it or anything like that? And the other thing I'd also be on the lookout for is if there are any places where it looks like, so normally when sort of like a tree grows out of something, I mean, like you'll see all sorts of things where like a tree is like pushing the pavement apart a bit or whatever, but like that's over like a lot of time, right? So it's sort of the way in which I'd be looking for like, are there any places where like it looks like a tree has like pushed a rock violently and suddenly and led to there being some sort of debris that you wouldn't get from like that normal progression of time.
Excellent points. And actually, just given that you have a moment to look around, and remind me your sensory. Do you have a plus to sensory?
Let me check. I think I do, but
it seems like something you might have. I can't remember.
Yeah, unfortunately, I put this into the chat of the previous one. Let me pull it up on my phone because I'm pretty sure that's
yeah, that's totally fine. While you are checking, though, something I will note that Hippolyta would see now that she's like committing some time to observing the landscape, right? One, there are shockingly few downed branches or leaves, given that this is a forest.
Okay.
Almost none. A couple, but very, very few. Second of all, you were saying about like violently disturbed landforms and things. I think I might have mentioned this, but if not, this will be the first time you're hearing of it. When you first teleported in, you were teleporting in onto like a small hill of some kind. Now that you're off of it, like very small hill, like a little knoll or something right next to the ship. Now that you're off of it and can look around, you can see that that hill is actually like a fairly large boulder that has not only a large divot in the ground leading up to it, but the grass and moss that has grown over it has grown so thick that it has left an almost golf course like carpet leading up to its peak, where it kind of like it clings off, but there's a sheer edge that prevents it from growing further.
So I do not have increased sensory, but I do have increased spirit. So I was wondering if I could, do something a little bit unusual. Can I pitch you something?
Please tell me.
I'm going to pitch that, Hippolyta has spent like a lot of time, out and her entire life. She's known that she's going to be queen one day. She spent a lot of time out training, and I'm like, my picture of the Amazons is that they do a lot of sort of, like the training out in nature, like sort of
Absolutely.
like you'll go out for like a week with like nothing but like your bow and your sword and just sort of like survive in the wilderness and be sort of get to know sort of the rhythm of nature and so on.
Yeah.
So I'm just sort of in a more spirit angle rather than sensory angle, gonna just kind of try and feel, does this feel off? Like, is this basically, it's clearly weird, but like, this is a new moon, right? We haven't been here before. Does it feel like there's something that's gone wrong here, or is nature just sort of unusual on this moon?
So I will give you a little more information on that in a moment. While Hippolyta is taking the time to kind of process this and feel out the situation, is she going to be following Ariadne, who is attempting to lead the group around this big tree?
Following, but she's kind of like off in her own space, like sort of just, being aware of like the sounds in nature, trying to like sort of, so she's following, but she's not paying super close attention to what Ariadne's doing.
The first thing I would note that she feels is that it is very, very weird being someplace that has weaker gravity. Like, obviously the gravity here isn't bouncy castle, but it's still enough that you're like bouncing a little more than usual, and that just it's uncomfortable, but it's also kind of fun, you know what I mean? Or at least kind of freeing and cool. Before we go further, Oren, 1, are you going to be following Ariadne? And 2, if so, what are you going to be doing as you are walking?
Okay, first, Ariadne, whoa, where are you going? Where are you going? You got to talk to us first. Tell us what's happening.
I'm trying to find the flower meadow.
Oh, okay.
The one that we think the roots of which may have kidnapped it. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know.
Okay. Any news on these roots? They're weird, right? Like they grew back really fast. What do we know? Do you get anything from there?
Hadn't really thought to check on that yet.
I think when this is out of character, Robbie mentioned that they it seems like they're all very young. They just grew crazy fast.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true? Is that true?
Or more like, from lunar botany, this is something that Ariadne knows. These trees naturally grow extremely quickly. She does not know exactly how old these ones are.
Okay.
I could convey that. Can I find out how old these trees are without having to actually chop a full one down? Because I'm an old lady. I'm not going to go through all that effort. Counting the rings is the obvious example, but like, I don't have rings and I don't have an axe.
If you can peel off a piece of bark, you could test the bark density, and that would do it.
Oh, yeah, cool. I want to get my shovel in there to get it started and then kind of pry it and then peel it off and give it a good lick. Now,
before you get to the licking part, both Hippolyta and Oren
just licking lichen.
We get to witness Ariadne wedge her shovel into a branch and like struggle fruitlessly against it for a couple of moments. Her frame is not up to the challenge of this.
Hippolyta, do you wanna help her out there? You seem strong.
Oh, sorry. Let me think. Well, I guess a shovel isn't the best implement here, right? What would be a good?
Don't you dare banish this shovel! It's enchanted.
Thinks to herself, and she's like clearly like halfway thinking about the trees, halfway thinking about what shovel alternatives are. And then suddenly,
just force it. Just grab it.
And then
it's okay. I can't.
Well, so, and then suddenly she has a moment like, oh, wait, I'm an idiot. And so what she does is she puts her hand in, and what I'm going to do is sort of a variation on shield wall. I'm the sort of the paired action is I'm just going to kind of jam my hand in there, and what I want to do is have a shield wall that it's just like the size of like a single shield, but basically just splits the bark down.
That's so sick. Oh my
Let's
god.
go. Hand shield
Sorry,
shovel.
sometimes I forget. Yeah, I'm too busy. I'm in my own head, and then as she does that, it just sort of splits down.
Yep.
Ooh.
Very nice. Okay,
The shield
cool.
emerges and cleaves the root clean open, sending off a number of perfectly fitting pieces of bark. Ariadne, do you want to grab one of these?
Yes.
Lovely. So testing the density, this thing is incredibly young. Probably less than a month old, and already it towers almost 6 stories.
Okay. Is it safe for humans to chew on?
Based on your lunar botany proficiency, if there are side effects, they won't kick in for a couple of days.
Oh well, we'll be gone by then.
Days.
I'll start chewing on it to get an idea of, see what else I can get an idea of. I don't know. What's in there? How's the flavor? How's the flavor? How's the stringiness? How are the cell walls doing? Is it healthy?
First of all, incredibly healthy. Those are some strong ass cell
Right.
walls. Second of all, vile taste. Like truly repulsive.
So
And
Hippolyta's going to see her doing this, and
Mhm.
because Hippolyta has no idea what she's doing, right? But, foreign customs are important to learn about. She's also going to take a piece and chew on it, and immediately spit it out.
I wouldn't.
And be like, sort of like try and cover for it. Like, sure, I do this all the time.
I think I'm gonna. Oh, this is horrible. Here, try it.
Oren, actions from you while
Man.
this is happening?
I'm offering it to Oren. I'm
I-
like, oh, this is horrible. Here, try it. Oh wait, never mind.
I take it and then break it next to my mouth, and then just throw it over to the side, pretending to eat it. I was gonna try and stop Hippolyta, but you know what? That's okay.
Thank you for
She needs to
humoring me,
experience
dearie.
things.
Indeed.
And since Oren
Trees are healthy, less than a month old. Apparently, they're supposed to grow at this rate.
Oh, Hippolyta,
I'm
now
gonna-
that you've actually tasted this thing, I said to Ariadne, this thing's disgusting. To Hippolyta, it's not
Yeah.
only disgusting, but you were trying to kind of get a gauge of what it feels like here. After tasting that bark, it feels very, very wrong here. That was the thing that made it wrong. They go from like, oh, I'm kind of uneasy to like, what the hell?
actually freaked out. Okay.
Now, before we
I-
go further, a brief check-in with Oren. Actions from you over here. You've seen both people's reactions to what's just happened.
So Ariadne, if this is young, it's very young, and it grows very fast. It makes me wonder what's keeping these things alive here.
Can
So-
I confirm my theory from part 1 by trying to smell for chloroplasts?
Could you reiterate
theory
your
from-
theory briefly?
My theory is that since the moon is, I think the term is geolocked, the same side is always facing other celestial bodies.
Yes.
I think it's the constant sunlight that is causing such virulent vegetation.
And while you're thinking about that, Orm, can you finish your question?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a random conjecture out there for you guys, but something or someone needed these bodies, the bodies of the people who are in cryostasis. That's why they stole them. They needed them for something or wanted them for something. Highly unlikely that it was an organization that is trying to sell ransoms or something, because they just dragged him out, right? Big brute force dragged him out. So here's my first conjecture as we're walking. We're walking to the place that Ariadne's trying to take us.
Yep.
My thoughts are, there might be something fueling the growth of all these plants. They might be a byproduct of something here that's causing such strong growth reactions. So my concern is that these humans that they took might be fuel. I don't know if that helps us find where they are, but it can help us kind of look for what these all lead back to, right? Okay, this is just conjecture. Ariadne, as we're walking, we're making our way closer to there. What do you think? What do you think? I'm just kind of spitballing here. Oh, we have to go into the woods? Please tell me we don't have to go into the woods.
Yeah. At this point, you guys have come enough around the tree that you actually get a little bit of a view of what's beyond, and no flowers, unfortunately. Rather, you can see that it is more wood. There is a little bit of grass growing, despite the incredibly heavy tree cover. There's just that much light here. But for the most part, it is what you might expect to see in a relatively flat, like almost redwood style forest with these gigantic trees blocking out a lot of light. So there's mostly a lot of very, very low undergrowth and a lot of very, very rich humus. Ariadne, actions from you after hearing Orum's conjecture.
Where there are flowers, there must be pollinators, because that's kind of why flowers evolve, right? So there's got to be animals on the moon at least.
Except fake flowers. There are plants and animals that generate fake flowers to entice other animals.
But they're still enticing animals. So there's got to be there has to be some sort of non-plant life on the moon, other than the humans, of course.
Also, to confirm your theory about the chloroplast, or partially confirm, yes, on this given moon, one of the reasons the vegetation is so, like, what's a good word for this? Explosive, is due to the enormous amount of sunlight. That's why the trees here have developed incredibly powerful, like, their leaves are little factories, right? However, this particular species could never attain that height in anything less than 2 years under normal circumstances. And I mean, 2 years is ridiculously fast, obviously, but...
Yeah, but so the main tree is growing abnormally fast.
Incredibly fast.
Okay. Well, I would like to convey this information to my teammates.
Okay. Good. So, go ahead, Hippolyta.
Regarding the stuff related to animals, this is getting me thinking. So I've been like trying to figure out like if I can put my something's very wrong. I'm not sure if I'm able to put my finger on it yet. Have I seen a normal amount of animals in this forest?
No, you haven't even seen a bug.
Okay, so I'm gonna immediately like sort of after Oren said that thing about animals, I'm gonna say like, that's it. That's the thing that's been so strange about this forest. There aren't any animals. I haven't heard birds. I haven't heard small creature like squirrels, small creatures, bugs. I haven't seen anything in this forest.
Ariadne is going to look shocked at this. She's going to like crouch on the ground, put her ear up to it, and kind of like tap gently.
There's a moment, and then she hears a tap back.
What do you hear, Ariadne?
There's the exact same tap back in the exact same pattern.
Something intelligent. I was listening for spiders, but...
We're about to do something very, very fast. Just know this is happening over an incredibly short period of time. The ground explodes and something grabs Ariadne by the face. No one has any idea what it is yet. All that they know is that it explodes out of the ground. There is dirt flying about, and Ariadne's arms go flailing for a moment as she is gripped. We're going to start with Hippolyta.
So, quick question. The thing that grabbed her, how large is it? Is it like hand size? Is it like...
2 hands put together.
Okay. So Hippolyta is going to draw her blade and attempt to slice through it.
Now, this is tricky with a person in the way, especially because it happens so close to the ground. Ariadne is less than an arm, like a forearm's length from the ground. So as you are drawing and moving into action, how are you going to position yourself to not whack her?
So,
Combo. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was saying combo. I wanted to instantly try and grab Ariadne's legs to pull her. That could make it easier for Hippolyta.
Absolutely. It's totally fine if you jump into place and do this as Hippolyta is drawing her up, and thank you for mentioning it. Now that Orem is doing so, actually, let's quickly check in with Ariadne to give you a little bit more context, Hippolyta. Ariadne, obviously the first thing you would do involuntarily is yelp or something. You cannot see anything. Your face, it feels like your face is stuck in a vacuum cleaner. And your neck and back are being craned in an awkward angle as something grabs your legs as well that you don't know what is. What would you like to do?
I'm thinking, would she have the presence of mind to make a smart move, or would she make a less smart, panicked, but more possibly immediately effective move? I didn't
I
necessarily
think this
put
is
any
a
points to
personality thing.
intelligence.
Yeah.
It's a personality thing. Let me consult her personality.
Yeah. If you want to give a moment to think about it, Hippolyta, have you made a decision here, or do you have any other things you want to try or get context for?
Yeah, so basically I think Hippolyta is acting as quickly as possible, and she sort of, if she needs to step forward to sort of bring her weapon around to hack at whatever it is, she'll step forward into it, sort of like I think her logic is, this is a situation where, like, even if she's like, putting herself into the unknown, like, probably not worse than sort of her elderly comrade getting her face grabbed by it. So I think her plan is to just basically lunge forward and then around and kind of bring her sword down onto it.
Now, an excellent point. As you step in, you get a little more context. It actually looks like two arms put together, and they're extending up out of the ground, tight clasped around Ariadne's face. Where do you want to try to hack along this thing?
So when you say two arms put together, two arms or something that looks like if two
Something
arms
that looks like two arms put together.
Okay, so in that case, I think her does it look like there's any sort of a joint?
No,
Like,
you cannot see a joint except maybe at this part, though that part is obviously very
that's
close to
okay.
Ariadne's face.
In that case, I think that basically she's just going to bring it down just anywhere on what looks like the forearm, and sort of this is very much sort of like a hack and slash type motion.
Yep.
It's just she's trying to do just like not very precise but very significant damage. If it's possible for her to bring it clean through, she will, but probably it won't be. So it's just like big old gash is sort of her goal.
Do you have a plus to skill? I vaguely remember that you do.
It's plus to skill and plus to reflex as well.
Yes, I remember that one. In this case, as Hippolyta swings, the blade buries itself deep into the forearm, getting over halfway through. As it does so, you can see that immediately a strange viscous goo spills out over the blade, and the forearm, while it was tight and like gripping and trying to pull, it does start to go a little bit more limp, though the clasping parts are still very much firmly holding strong. Ariadne, quick actions from you as a follow-up before we jump back over to Orem at the tail end.
Magic shovel. Smack, 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 smack.
Ariadne flails about with the magic shovel, beating at the thing like whatever is on her face. Hippolyta can see from this side that this is borderline negligible effect, but it does like seem to at least kind of disrupt the thing's hold just ever so slightly and prevent it from like neatly pulling Ariadne back. Orem, Ariadne's legs are kicking and flailing. Anything that you want to do while holding them and pulling her back, you do feel a lot of like force exerted from the grabber, so it's not like you are definitely doing a like work here of keeping it away.
Ariadne, I wasn't built for this. Please stop kicking me. Please stop kicking me. I'm trying to help you. I'm just doing my best to pull.
I want to stop kicking with my.
I
want to stop kicking with my feet and start kicking, by which I mean envenomating with my mandibles.
Ooh, and where are you going to be making these?
I want to make like sort of vampire fangs that can. I want to manifest rather vampire fangs from my mouth that can bite into the hands that are grabbing my face.
And how are you going to create these?
I think I'd want to try to spread my mouth open as much as I'm able to, and hiss.
Oh, that's interesting. I see. So as you do so and hiss, you can feel the tingling weirdness in your cheeks, almost like, when if you ever got a local while you're having like dental surgery done, you just feel your jaw being like jerked around without feeling anything. It feels kind of like that. And you can feel something start to be produced from your cheeks. However, before we go further with that, Orem, thankfully, Ariadne has heard you and is being more cooperative at this point. And Hippolyta, now that Orem can pull harder, you actually get a much cleaner view of the grabber, which is now being pulled partially more out of the ground, revealing still more connected arm. So it's like maybe double the length it had before and gives you a perfect shot at your already cleft piece. Do you want to finish the job and cut it clean, or do you have other actions you want to take?
I think I'm going to just keep hacking at it. Like, just pull my blade and then just again, strike again and try and cut it clean.
Yep, a second hack does the trick. You can see that the grabber part is still affixed to Ariadne's face. The other part slithers back into the ground, almost like a rope going over a cliff's edge. And Ariadne, as you feel those fangs starting to properly emerge from your cheeks, what are you going to do with them? Is this going to be an immediate bite, or do you have other things you want to do?
The part attached to my face has been cleft from the part
You don't
attached to
notice.
whatever. Okay, yeah, bite.
It's still
You know
still
what?
there.
You
Like
know what
gross.
this is like.
Hmm.
Did you and Tasker ever roughhouse as kids?
Oh, endlessly.
Did one of you ever pull that thing where one of you has like an arm around the face and then the other one licks it to get it to go away? It's very much that kind of energy. Like,
Oh, I love that. Now, first of
like,
all,
you fool! You've forgotten my mouth as a weapon.
yeah. Now, first of all, Orem, without any tension on the other side, after Hippolyta cleft the thing, you fall neatly onto your bum. And a moment thereafter, you all hear like a little hiss from Ariadne. And then the grabber literally pops away from her face. Ariadne, you literally feel it trying to get away from you as fast as possible. The puncture wound visible on it as it also starts to leak that viscous goo. The two of you can see the fangs retreating into Ariadne's cheeks after she delivers this bite, as the grasper is twitching on the ground, almost like it's a fish trying to flop back into water. Now that you all have for the first time, a clear look at it, it is without doubt a flower that has evolved into a grasper of some kind.
Grab it! Someone grab it!
Oh no, you don't.
Hippolyta, you're the muscle.
I'm just gonna plant my sword through it and try and pin it in place.
Yeah.
It stops twitching. It keeps twitching, but it only very slightly twitches and absolutely cannot move now that it is pinned with the sword.
Okay, the planet is carnivorous. That's got to be what's happening. Next conjecture. I have a new idea of what I think it could be. The whole moon.
A brief note, you all can see that Ariadne's face is now ringed with nasty scarred sucker wounds. And also, even more possibly disturbingly, almost like, when you wash dishes too long and your hands get all kind of crusty and nasty, her face is looking crusty and nasty in almost the exact same way.
So I am going to, seeing that, do a sort of a quick once-over on myself. Did I get splattered with plant blood?
You did not.
Okay, I'm going to sort of be aware of where sort of goop lands.
Indeed. And Orem, did you have a quick follow-up before you jump back to Ariadne?
As I try and help Ariadne up because her legs were in my lap, kind of.
Yeah.
I grab her hand, pull her up, and I'm like, I think my next conjecture is I think this place is a carnivorous being. They may have already eaten the crew.
Well,
Actions
I hope not.
Actions from Ariadne after hearing this. You're still disoriented, to say the least, but quickly regaining of your senses.
Oh.
You feel the crust of your skin.
Greg, your microphone is a little bit moved from...
There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, thank you both for your help, dearies. What is this thing? Carnivorous planet. Lunar botany. What is this plant's MO? How does it receive nutrients?
So this particular flower?
Yeah.
This particular flower is a symbiotic parasite.
A parasite. Are we talking like a Venus flytrap, or are we talking about like a cordyceps?
Somewhere kind of in between. Venus flytrap, and it does take nutrients, but it also passes on most of the nutrients it takes to its host. It only taps into the host nutrients during times of drought or famine.
I would like to convey that information.
Yeah, Ariadne passes this on.
Wait,
Okay. The flowers wanted hosts. New hosts fall from the sky.
What did Hippolyta say?
I said, I have a thought, sort of the... So, Orem, you said that there was a disconnect with the what did you call it? The dark box.
The black box. Close
but-
enough. Yeah.
So you said that it might be possible that perhaps there had been a bit more time passed than people had assumed.
Well, that's what I thought, but most of the conclusions that Ariadne's coming to about these plants lead me to think that that might not be true. These plants can grow really fast.
I'm just wondering. So I don't know how the things that these passengers were in work, but so something's clearly wrong with the way these plants are behaving. But I sort of wonder if what's going on is the plants sort of finding new sort of I don't know what the term would be, partners, sort of things to parasitize,
Hosts.
or hosts, or is it that hosts dropped out of the sky, or is it that there were a whole bunch of people in failing pods that the plant came across?
Another question. If these
good.
things are parasites, then in what way do they damage their hosts if they usually pass on nutrients to them?
They drink from the host during times where there is no food.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's sort of like a conditional parasitism.
Yes. That's what your lunar botany proficiency is telling you at the very least. You can't get the specifics on the exact species or much more detail than that, but this sort of parasitic plant is not uncommon on the botanical moons of this particular region.
So maybe they ran out of food here, or they ran out. Maybe they were dying a long time ago, and this landed this ship, and they found an opportunistic way to feed themselves. So they grew really fast to keep it there, right? The tree-like, roots-like thing. They're all connected together, and to keep the ship here, so they could collect all of the bodies out of it. It traps it like that.
Or maybe the ship crashing damaged the surface plants enough that the whole ecosystem thought it was under attack, and then they scrambled to find as many hosts as possible.
Well, that's
I
the
wanna-
thing,
I wanna
though.
use-
There isn't really a whole ecosystem, is there? Right? It's just
Right.
these trees. So if ordinarily these trees find hosts to sort of to opportunistically parasitize, well, here it seems like there aren't any. So whatever, either it ended up somewhere where it didn't have any, or something happened to the ecosystem that was previously here.
As Hippolyta is saying this, you all hear a call from hey!
Huh?
Around the corner of the tree from the direction of the ship, you can see Tian and Telsa running towards you. Telsa lagging a little ways behind with a heavy backpack on her back. And Tian saying, "All right, good. Heard a yell. Sorry."
Hey, be really careful around these plants. They are carnivorous in some
Wait.
form.
What
Found that out.
plants? Are we talking grass? Are we talking tree? What are we talking?
Probably all of it.
The
just to be on
underground
the safe
flower.
side.
I wanna.
He turns Telsa around and they start to sprint back towards the ship. What the hell are you doing out here with carnivorous trees here?
Tread lightly. The flowers are underground.
And then you hear him swear, "What do you mean they're underground? God fucking damn it, the worst moon of all time to crash land on."
I go ahead and point to the flower one that
I've
we have
heard of
stabbed on the
worse.
ground.
Yep.
We're like, this kind of thing. Moon-based parasitism.
He yells one more time over his shoulder before getting out of view. "Great! Awesome! Wonderful! We'll be holed up where it's safe."
So
Okay.
I have a question about where the flower came out of.
Yeah.
You said it went back, sort of the remaining bit went down back into the ground. Is there
Slurped up like a noodle.
Is there a hole still there or no?
Yes, there is.
Okay. So I think I'm going to very cautiously try and go over and peer down the hole, with sort of being ready to sort of jump out of the way if I need to immediately.
The stalk of the flower was quite thick, and as such, there's you could reach a hand down there. Wouldn't recommend it, but you could. It's of course extremely dark though, so you can't see deeper in than a couple inches.
Let's see. Now, sort of if actually wait, now Hippolyta's seen some stuff. Oren, you're sort of you have all sorts of interesting I don't know what the word is, gadgets, weaponry. Do you have anything that could produce light?
Oh, it's funny you mentioned that. Absolutely, I do. Everything else you were about to say was not true. I am a base model. I have almost nothing. I'm sorry. But light, yeah, I think I can handle that one. I think I can handle that then. And I would
Mhm.
like to, in my palm, just have a little circle open up that's like a flashlight, pretty simply.
Ooh, that's interesting. Let me think about that. I'm okay with that being an arcane manifest.
Let's go.
Yeah, you can do that with base arcane, and it makes perfect sense here. You turn on, it's like a weak power flashlight, but it's certainly enough to look down that hole. And as you all like kind of gingerly crane over, you can see that the hole goes down probably 3 or 4 feet through an incredibly tight weft, like almost mass, like a hairnet or a rug of undergrowth and roots and a manner of other like plant bodies. But then it reaches dirt, and at the bottom of that, something hard, almost like the outside of a sweet potato from the very small little piece that you can see. The entire way down is again about 4 or 5 feet.
Well, should we start digging? Or did we still have somewhere else we needed to try looking?
I don't know. It
Ariadne,
seems to me like we found something.
Ariadne, as the one with the shovel, what would you like to do?
Well, let's take a look. Before I start digging, I want to try to use my knowledge as power to tap into the mycelial network. And I'm going to say, believe it or not, this isn't the first time I've been able to talk to plants. Trust me, grass and potatoes are useless.
Now,
Potatoes are only barely articulate. They never say anything of interest, and grass barely talks at all.
now, as you tap in, 2 things of note. While you would normally expect a proper mycelium network pretty much in any dirt you ever touch, the one here is not particularly robust. Much more interestingly, though, the grass, like the root network that you see, is giving you a similar amount of information, despite not being a traditional fungus, we will say in gigantic scare quotes.
Yeah. They work in similar ways. Mycelial networks can pass along nutrients, but roots can also release all sorts of plant-based pheromones that can convey messages like danger or like
of course.
herbivore or like all sorts of
this
stuff
is
like that.
this is giving you more than a normal root network would, even of other plants, though.
Cool, great.
And the vague sense that you are getting right now, if I had to boil it down to like 1 or 2 words, would be keep tight. That's the information that you feel like you're getting off of this network right now.
Keep tight.
She mutters to herself.
Chat?
As if it's trying to hold itself together. Could it be that there's something under everything that's being held? So under all these layers of dirt and roots and everything, there's something being held in?
Well, from what you could see, that little glimpse of solid at the bottom looked, if nothing else, like either a big root or, barring that, a tuber of some kind.
With lunar botany, under what circumstances would a network of grasses and trees want to keep tight, as it were?
That's something that your lunar botany knowledge would not extend to, because this sort of deep in understanding of communication within root networks is not something that a textbook will teach you. That's something that magic will give you.
Okay, here's a theory I'm going to throw out. Did you ever see the movie Lucy?
No, I did not.
In the movie Lucy, there is a cellular biologist who theorizes that cells kind of have a will of their own, and in times of crisis, a cell will try to move ever closer to the ultimate ideal of immortality, whereas in times of peace or calm, it will try to move away from that towards the ideal of perfect conveying of information to the next generation.
I'm adjusting my light.
Tight.
Please keep talking.
Yeah. Keep tight seems more like a defensive adaptation than a than a sort of regenerative or populating one.
Yes, I think we can, without a doubt, say that it is a defensive sentiment, possibly, maybe even probably directed towards your presence.
Hmm.
Now,
So
Ariadne,
we
would you
could
like
be
to
in
start
danger.
trying to dig, or do you have other things you want to piece together first?
I think that's about as much as I can piece together for now. I'm gonna break ground. I'm
Now,
gonna start by trying. Yes.
yep, I was going to say that breaking ground, as you like stick the shovel in, it barely goes in an inch. The root network is so tough and resistant that it actually catches the shovel gently, almost like cloth armor.
Okay, I want to try
Hmm.
something.
Yeah, what does Hippolyta want to do?
So I've got a question.
Yeah.
The hole the flower came out of, how much of a straightaway hole is it?
Oh,
Is it like a curvy hole or a straightaway hole?
mostly straight away, a little curve.
Okay. So here's the idea that I have, and I think I'm gonna need to kind of to do some energy work weirdness about this. So I'm trying to figure out how exactly I'm gonna do this. But I think what I want to do is so it seems to know that we're coming, and it seems to be sort of taking some defensive actions to prevent us from digging. It probably isn't taking many defensive actions going the other way. So what I kind of want to do is now, and the sort of the setup I'm going to have for this, right, is that even though sort of my sword is my primary weapon, right, I'm an Amazon. I've been an Amazon all my life. I've trained with arrows all my life, and I know these sort of like they're an extension of myself. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my bow with sort of an arrow aimed directly down into the hole, and then seeing the arrow as though it's just an extension of my own body, I'm going to release the arrow, and at the moment that it gets down to sort of like the part of the hole that's the sort of the distance that we can see, I want to basically have a shield wall come up backwards toward.
Holy shit! Oh my god, that's so fucking cool.
And so, and the basically the action that I want to do with this, right, is
Yeah.
I'm going to sort of like draw my bow like I've done a million times, like I've been trained to do, and I'm going to let out this this absolute sort of scream, this Amazonian war cry, as sort of I release. And then the sort of at the moment that the arrow hits where I want it to, I'm just going to sort of like with the bow arm that's like sort of I'm like holding the bow like this with my palm, and I'm just gonna like grab sort of the bow, like physically have my hand around it and just reach back with the bow and sort of pull a shield wall towards me.
Holy shit. Okay, so first of all, your scream would startle the hell out of both of Oren and Ariadne. However, as the arrow hits, you feel the shield wall take. You feel it. It's stuck. Obviously, it would be within such a tight space. You still have that, like, you're still about to execute the pull, but you feel like the shield wall is having trouble, like, coming into being. How do you want to give it that extra little bit of oomph to push through the ground up and out?
Let me think about this for a moment. So, okay, I think, so I think probably,
You need a moment to think?
yeah, okay, here's a question.
Yeah.
Could I just, to give it sort of a little extra oomph to sort of, to pull it back towards me, is the issue, does it feel, when it gets caught, does it feel like basically it's just that it takes a lot of effort to like to pull through the dirt, or does it feel like it's getting caught in a specific way, sort of?
Yeah, the best way I could describe it is if you've, like, when you're doing yard work, have you ever come to the point where you're trying to pull a root out and it's like 25 times bigger than you thought it was, and the bastard is stuck in there for an entire afternoon? This happened to me recently. It feels
Relatable.
like that.
Okay, so you know, sometimes you just have to commit to things. Hippolyta's just going to sort of put more and more energy into this, and if she has to make the shield wall in there bigger, if she has to make it sharper, if she has to just take more energy pulling it out, then sort of so be it. She's just going to like commit to the fullest extent possible, and if this takes way more out of her than she was expecting, there's no point in doing it halfway.
The other two of you see the ground start to slightly buckle, and you can see that like Hippolyta's face involuntarily tenses, her eyes widen, her mouth kind of like grits down into a thin line, her fingers contort, and Hippolyta, from your perspective, you can see like faint like magical hallucinations start to appear on the edges of your vision, and you can feel the enormous effort rush through your body as you try to pull this magic up from the ground. Quick actions first from Oren, then Ariadne. This could be a little bit before Hippolyta does this and also during this process we're describing right now. Oren.
I would like during, actually, and since I'm holding up a flashlight, right, to try and see down it, I want, as things move and as things are going and she's pulling, essentially I want to take stock of everything that's happening down there. I want to be the eyes able to see what's going on. What do the roots look like? Where are they ripping? How much does it take for this to pull? And can I see whatever that root-looking thing at the bottom was that we are trying to bring up?
Absolutely. Because of Hippolyta's effort, you can see that that hole is getting larger. The roots are clinging together. You literally can see the roots tautening as they try to hold on.
They're trying to do this.
Exactly. However, the hole is nonetheless widening as the shields that are starting to form are almost forming like a funnel and pushing the dirt out and away and a little bit up. And that mass down at the bottom, you can see is getting broader. Like the view of it is getting broader and broader. And the more you look at it, it is without doubt a giant tuber. Probably so big as to be like maybe even comparable in size to the spaceship you were just on, judging by the size of the nodules on it. Now, Ariadne, actions from you as Orem is like tentatively, I would imagine, watching down the hole, and Hippolyta's
backing up.
Yeah,
I'm backing up.
And Hippolyta's exerting this enormous effort.
My shovel couldn't really scrape very deep, but can I, or penetrate very deep, but can I scrape the surface to get a good shovelful of dirt and turn that into spiders? And I'm going to tell Hippolyta as she does this, careful, dearie, don't strain yourself too hard. And as my spiders come into being, assuming they do, I want to tell them
you can definitely scrape enough dirt off like the inner sides of the hole to get a couple diggy spiders going.
I want to tell them, penetrate the ground and loosen the soil, slip between the roots, and reinforce the shields with your webs.
And you can see that the little dirt spiders.
And if you can, I want to take out a stitch marker, which is my waypoint.
Ooh,
I want to hand it off to one of the spiders, and I say, deliver this unto the root nexus.
What message do you want to put into it?
I want to imbue a message that I'm combining with my magical power of tapping into mycelial networks here. I want to basically treat this like a computer virus. I want my code to infiltrate their system and populate throughout it.
That's so sick. And what's the message?
Threat passed.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God. The spider snatches it and scuttles down into the growing hole. The other, like, one or two ones that you've created start to, like, nudge their way between the shields and the dirt. And you can see, like, you know when, like, a little animal is digging, you can see the little, like, of dirt kind of, like, scooting out one by one by one. It's like that, like a nature documentary where some, like smelly little rodent is digging a hole. Like, that sort of thing.
Okay, and then I want to try to, it might take my spiders a while to get down there, so I want Hippolyta to be able to hold out, so I'm going to say, okay, steady now. Slow and steady wins the race. Keep up your strength. Don't blow it all in one go.
And Hippolyta, actions from you. The hallucinations are still playing around your eyes, gleaming and green and blue and red and gold. They feel almost like home, but also intensely foreign, and you can barely hear Ariadne. You're exerting so much, and she's pretty much talking into your ear.
Okay, so it feels like probably I'm not necessarily going to be able to just do this on my own. So I think my priority is going to be to keep up the pressure, and that basically, like, if I can't sort of just rip this out, fine, but I want to make sure that sort of there's a constant sort of widening pressure
course.
against the roots.
What do Ariadne's words like feel to Hippolyta emotionally? Just the words alone and kind of the relationship that she is establishing with this, almost like it's one of the most gentle and personable things Ariadne has said to anyone this mission.
I think you know what this reminds me of, I think,
What?
is I sort of when I was young and sort of like, training to use a bow,
Oh
sort of
yes.
I would sometimes sort of, go at it till I was at the point of exhaustion, and my mom or one of my aunts or my grandmother once would sort of sometimes be right over my shoulder and would sort of be whispering that, no, keep steady, sort of, you can do it, is sort of like as my hand is shaking, they don't sort of strain yourself, just draw back gently and hold and see, like aim and then release, and sort of that's the way that she's sort of processing this.
Beautiful. I could not ask for a better parallel. And because of that, you feel your hands start to loosen and your jaws start to loosen and the hallucinations start to, they're still there, but they're a little more fuzzy in your peripherals. And even though you're still exerting, you're not exerting nearly as much. Ariadne, you had a follow-up?
Yes, actually, I wanted to turn my little speech into rallying, which I hope will work well because I've got a plus to my vitality. And I'm
Yeah.
going to tell her, "Look, you're doing great. After this mission is over, let's you and me get a whole tub full of chocolate ice cream, and I'll tell you everything I know about what men actually are."
The great thing about that, right, is the two of them have totally different ideas about what that means. Hippolyta would be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, great, an anthropological experience."
We can have girl talk. It'll be great. And importantly, chocolate. You've had chocolate, right?
Hippolyta cannot respond to this, but
Yeah.
Uh,
She's
you
just
don't need to
focused, but,
answer.
like,
Don't talk.
even though it's kind of like white noise to her, it's like the comforting sort of white noise that just allows her to just like focus in.
there's a sudden shift. Orem is the first to notice it. The roots have let go. And the shields finally push out, expanding the hole to be almost 6 feet wide. Now that you have a full look of what's down below, Orem, first of all, you can see that the tuber down below has been like deeply gouged by the shields that formed out and like flashed out in almost like a 6-pointed star pattern. And second of all, you can see that all of those tight knit roots are like much more loose and kind of like gently twining in with each other, like reforming the network in a ring around the present shields. Additionally, down below, you can see on the tuber little buds are popping up that form little like a tulip bulb shaped. What would be the word? Digits with like small stalks leading behind them that kind of questingly reach up through the now open air. Actions first from Oren, then from Ariadne, then Hippolyta, who's still going to be coming down from this exertion.
So yeah, all the roots are no longer tight. But the tuber is growing upwards now, like little tendrils.
Yeah, little tendrils are growing up from the tuber. Their stalks look similar to the grabber from earlier, though they are, as of now at least, much smaller, though growing fast enough to look like little twining serpents rising up.
Okay. What did Ariadne tell her spiders to do, to say to them?
Threat past, I believe, was it?
That was the message I imbued into my waypoint, which will hopefully infect the root system.
Though she
I
would
told
not have said it aloud.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right,
I told my
okay.
spiders to weave between the roots and loosen the soil and reinforce the shields with their webbing.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. It looks like it's coming to attack us. So, shoot, I don't know what to do here.
Do you need a moment to think?
Let me think. I do. I need a moment to
Here.
think.
Ariadne, after your rally and Hippolyta's shield wall finishes opening up the ground, what would you like to do?
This is a bit of a weird one.
As per usual.
I would like to familiar face the potato.
What is your pre-existing relationship to the tuber?
That's good.
This tuber is actually a sort of distant offshoot cousin to the mandrake root, which is used in a lot of spells, as you may know. A
Mhm.
very helpful ingredient for inducing or even alleviating insanity in a lot of cases. But anyway,
Mhm.
it was actually referenced in this one very long-winded blog post as an ingredient for a rare potion. But they said, oh, but it's difficult to get because it only grows on like these certain moons for these certain exoplanets. And we're like, okay, well, okay, spaceman, we totally believe you. And and Hippolyta's looking at this potato, going like, "Oh my God, she was telling the truth."
Oh yeah.
And I think the relationship I want to pitch is just that I know things about this potato, what kind of attacks it has available, what sort of things. What's its deal, really?
I'm going to give you a less than a paragraph of dubious internet information based off of this familiar
Cool.
face. Normally, familiar face is a two-way relationship, but this is a fucking potato, so it's not like it has a relationship with you yet.
Can't
However,
recommend it.
Potato.
I like what I like what you gave a lot, and as such, here's what you get. First of all, this thing is hollow and it's very, very spacious on the inside. The space that is contained on the inside is used to store nutrients, and the tendrils that are sent up and out are used as, again, symbiotic parasitoid hosts slash finders or feelers, used to not only penetrate new potential hosts, from which point they can cannibalize that host nutrients and also acquire more nutrients for it, but also to interact with the world more broadly. It is only ever this active when it is well fed.
Okay, so hello, baseline intelligence.
Hi.
Probably about 24 people inside that thing.
Could be. Yes, they would fit.
All right, I would like to pass on what I know about this potato to Oren because Hippolyta's busy.
Yeah.
True.
And I'd like to go on to conclude. Our passengers are probably in there. If we could only find a way in.
Orem, actions from you, and then we'll jump back to Hippolyta.
I want to give
Let's
Orem
see,
like
so-
the actual species name for this thing because as a librarian, they probably deal in like very scientific, easy to reference facts like that. It might help with their kit.
Sure, I'll give you a name. I'm going to type it in our private chat and say it aloud. The name you know it by, or would have seen on this dubious internet blog by, is Oroes melester.
That's within MEL, not MOL, for anybody
Yes.
watching at home.
Although the MOL is definitely implied to some degree due to the way that it feeds.
It's grabbing things, yeah.
Maybe
like
Orem can
to-
use their library powers to find something better than just a dubious blog post.
Yeah, so I'm going to reach into my bag for a book on tubers, weird tubers, okay? So I want to find this name, this name that you just said from the blog post. See if I can find it in the book that I grabbed from my bag first.
Absolutely. Pulling out a book on unusual tubers of the world. I think we're okay with this. Of unusual tubers of the worlds. We'll pluralize that. Going to the index and leafing through it, you would find under O that this, you don't find this specific name, but you do find the Oroes family. Oroes. The Oroes family is actually fairly well spread. There are some that aren't even in space, and they are all species of parasitic tubers that like colonize an area and then connect to nearby plant life to help and also feed off of it. This is without a doubt the biggest Oroes that you have ever seen or heard of, or anyone in this book has ever seen or heard of. The largest documented anywhere, just from a quick read through, is no bigger than like a foot long, and that was considered massive.
Can I take out a smartphone, which obviously at this distance has no signal, and take a photograph of it?
Is this coming out of your satchel?
Yes.
I am okay with this within limited functionality. So to be saucy about it, we're going to say that you're on like 3% battery charge.
That's fair.
And Hippolyta, you have finally come down. Your body is loose enough for you to actually move. And while there are still winking lights around the peripheries of your vision, and you feel like you hear like a buzzing in your ears, not to mention you feel like you're feeling incredibly nostalgic for childhood after all of that, like, internal for the moment, or at least you're coming off of a nostalgia kick. So
Yeah.
amidst this fraught state, you are still able to maintain a reasonable amount of composure. And because of that, what would you like to do now that you can witness what you've done?
So I think if I'm kind of still maintaining the shield wall thing, then I think my priority is just to make sure that sort of the plants don't creep back in. And I definitely I don't think I got another one of these in me, right? It's like that that felt like a threshold drop at least.
Yes, you're in the yellow.
So yeah, so I think basically what I'm just gonna do now is kind of, focus on just maintaining this the way it is and not sort of letting it like slip back, because it feels like it'll be easier to keep this up than it would be if I let it sort of whatever. So I'm just gonna kind of focus on just keeping this up and just kind of like, just breathing into it. And like I've kind of like the way I conceptualize this is sort of like the difference between like a slow jog and a sprint, right? Like I just did this like big exertion, and now I'm in kind of like a wind down jog mode where I'm just sort of maintaining this, and then sort of, but like just kind of you're not sort of not doing much else, just kind of like keeping it up and paying attention to make sure that sort of that like the slow sort of wind down jog doesn't become an exertion in and of itself by like sort of the length of it. I'm just gonna kind of like sit back and try and keep it.
Because of your beautiful piece of energy work and that contribution by Ariadne, you're going to be getting a good amount more duration off of this shield wall than you normally would, especially because of these contributions you've just made. So it's far from infinite, but you have some time at the very least.
Okay, yeah. The other thing also, right, is one thing that I don't want to do is like push myself too much here on the maintenance. Sort of like I don't want to need to do it again, but like sort of if it feels like it's getting to the point that it's like sort of getting difficult to keep it up, I'm gonna let it drop, because my guess is probably we've got more to do than just open it up to see the tuber. So
totally reasonable. Orem, actions.
Okay, I would like to kind of crack my metal knuckles real quick and go, okay, all right, I'm going to, knowledge is power, I'm going to try and download a...
Why do those crack?
What? Oh, it's because I think it's fun. It's like mechanical keyboard, you just fun to have them make the noise, okay? Not necessary.
They put that in there on purpose.
Mechanical keyboard.
The clicky knuckles, okay? Clicky knuckles.
Do you go in there with maintenance and like lube your knuckles?
I have to.
I feel like your chassis maybe a little more high quality than you give it credit for, is all.
Maybe, but I'm afraid of getting dirt in the joints because it's gonna be horrible. Okay,
what
I'm about to do? Yes, I'm going to download an instruction manual, user manual for a ground penetrating radar to learn all the functionality and how it works, using knowledge is power, and turn that into as an ability. The ability for me to become a ground penetrating radar.
That's so fucking smart.
And
I love it.
I'm going to go, I'm so sorry, pat my joints, and jump into the hole. It's big. Is it big enough for me to jump in?
Yes, it is, comfortably.
Okay, and be like, I'm made out of metal. It can't use me as a fuel source, so I'm going to jump right in on top of the tuber.
Clonk. There's a clonk noise, and you can see that the little tendrils that were coming up, one or two like kind of touch your like lower legs and stuff like that, but they completely ignore you otherwise.
See, I'm not food. Okay, and then I take both my hands. I do another clap as I'm wont to do, and then press them down into the tuber and use ground penetrating radar to see if I can see things that are inside of it.
Orem emits a weird buzz as their entire body starts to vibrate. Like you would be like, it would be almost like you're having a seizure while also like ticking at the same time. You'd be like saying like little snippets of random syllables and things like that. And as you do so, however, the information rushes into your mind. This tuber is not the size of the spaceship. It's at least 3 times bigger than that. And it's separated into 3 different compartments. Though there are smaller like side compartments and things like that as well. There are 24 large pod-sized objects inside of it, and there are a number of internal connecting pieces that are linking the tubers the tuber's innards to the pods. The insides of the tuber are fairly open. It seems as though it is open in such a way such that it can store a lot of food, but it seems to have evenly apportioned the pods throughout its length, meaning that if you were inside, you would have a good amount of room to maneuver around them.
Okay. As I'm like vibrating and trying to talk, they're inside.
This would come out as
And
it was completely garbled.
Damn it.
I know I promised you we would have girl talk over chocolate ice cream, but I have to admit I really kind of want to stay behind and turn this thing into the world's most exotic vodka.
And Oren, after taking this radar reading, do you have any other things you want to check for using this power that you've gained through Knowledge's power?
The power I gained is specifically for like a radar technology, so I'm not
Yep.
sure I could tell whether anything's alive or heat signature or anything like that. So, you said they're connected. Like there's 3 parts and they're connected. You can go between them.
Yes.
Is there any opening external, like an external opening that the radar could show me that goes out?
That's a fantastic question, and yes, there is. There is. It has a number of connections leading to big nearby trees, but its biggest connection, big enough for a person to fit through and hollow as with the rest of it, is connected to the base of that gigantic tree that the ship is connected to. You can't see how it connects to it. You just know that there is a hollow passageway that leads up and directly towards that tree.
Okay, all right. I'm going to stop doing the vibrating and put it to the radar. As I'm looking around, I wasn't thinking about this. About how deep is this?
It's like
hole
5
that I'm
feet
in?
deep. You're like your head's poking over.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna put my hand up there, trying to figure out how to get out of the hole, and I'm going to relay everything that you've told me over the course of me trying to get out of it.
As
Can I use
Oren
the
is-
shield wall as like a foothold?
Not really as a foothold, but you can like reach, like grab the lip of it and try to like pull yourself up like that. Though Orm is, of course, not very strong whatsoever. As
No, it's gonna
Orm
take
is
some effort.
babblingly relaying this, any actions from Ariadne or Hippolyta? Hippolyta is obviously like partially concentrating on maintaining the shield wall, but she would have enough wherewithal to physically act on top of this in minor ways if she wants. Actually, let's start with her.
I'll sort of give kind of like a hand up, but kind of like just sort of like give you a sort of a place.
Yep. Hippolyta can almost one-armedly pull Orem out of the hole, not because Hippolyta is disproportionately strong, but because Orem is very small from everything you described. And as doing so, any other action from Hippolyta or Ariadne in response to Orem's description of what was sensed?
I have an idea for potentially getting these things out. Am I aware of whether or not my earlier message managed to at least somewhat infiltrate their system?
That is a great question. You do not know for sure, but given the sudden relinquishing of the mesh, it seems likely.
Okay. All right. I was thinking I could maybe check with a manifestation, but I think baseline intelligence is enough to work that out. Okay, so I think what I want to do is one of those, but bigger. And I think to do it, I don't know exactly how yet, but I'm definitely going to want the face hugger that I poisoned earlier. Can I walk over to that and pull it up unpin it from the sword and start examining it?
Yes, absolutely. It is very dead. And because of that, it is completely able to be manipulated. You can see that the poison that you left has left kind of this like streaking veiny thing over its, like, maybe not vein is the right word, but like this streak of color in like a spreading patch from the point of penetration. And other than that, the thing is like quite limp and floppy. It's a good analogy here. Imagine like a pair of cactus pads that have like not had water in quite a while.
I'm a little unfamiliar with cactus
Pardon.
pads.
Okay, maybe not the best analogy.
Yeah.
Like a
But I can imagine sort of limp, floppy vegetative matter, I guess.
Precisely. That's good enough then. And on top of that, Hippolyta, any responses from you to Orem after lifting them out of the hole and maintaining your shield wall?
good to know. It would be really bad if I did this for nothing. Sort of, oh, I'm glad.
Oh, Ray, your mic is a little fuzzy if you're like covering it or anything.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what's up with that then. I said I haven't moved
you're
anywhere.
perfect now. I think you were just a little far away.
Okay, yeah. I just it's okay. It's good they're down there.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. The most important part of all this. Sorry for all my rambling. I know sometimes I fast for my own good, but also there is an opening at the base of the tree that from where the original crash landing is that we could probably go in there and get them out of. That's the most important part.
Do we need this hole?
No,
Yes,
and I
need it.
Oh,
okay.
never mind. Just
They
kidding.
say yes and no at the
Yeah.
same time, which is perfectly in character. Ariadne, what's your follow-up?
I was thinking, okay, if you two can go around to the ship and get inside this thing, I think I can do something from the outside that'll help it more willingly relinquish the pods to the two of you.
Okay, that sounds good.
Well, okay. Do you need the hole open or do you not need the hole open? Because I don't think I can keep the hole open if I go somewhere else. It's a little bit hard to keep the hole open.
Oh, well, I might be able to do my thing from the inside. But if I'm gonna do it from the outside, I definitely want the hole open. At this point, I'm inside-outside agnostic.
Okay, I'm gonna sit down now and just focus on keeping the hole open. Okay. Okay, and she's just gonna like sit down and just like concentrate on keeping the hole open.
Yeah,
Wait,
I kind of picturing
on.
her cross-legged, almost like a some mystic master or something like that. Just like do not leave, shield wall.
Yeah, like, but a little bit punchy. Like,
Yeah.
it's sort of like that, but it's clear that she's like really trying to just be like, yes, I'm going to do this thing, but also that's kind of the one thing that right now she can focus on doing. So it's convenient that it's the thing that's needed of her.
Perfect. Oren, yes.
You're doing amazing, sweetie.
Oh, I was just saying, did the thing you did with the spiders, is that not doing a good enough job of keeping it open? It's not going to try and
Certainly not.
reclose, right? Since this.
The spiders are dexterous, but they're not nearly as physically strong as Hippolyta.
Fair enough. And I'm going to look. I guess if they're both going to stay here, I will make my way towards the base of the tree. How far away are we currently from that area, from the tree with the ship and all of that?
You're like a Hippolyta's stone's throw from the tree. And from there, the ship is like on the exact opposite side. So from bird's eye view, it would be at 12 o'clock if you're at 6 o'clock.
Okay, it's not that far, but it's far enough that I'm going to send a memo to Tien.
Yep.
Letting him know. Oh God, I only have 10 words.
Yep.
Roughly.
So
You could probably get away with 11 if you hyphenated something.
yeah. It's gonna be meet me at the base of the tree, or tree root. What is it? It's like a tree, right? It's like a tree.
Yeah, it's a tree.
Okay, meet me at the base of the tree, and that's it. It's just a little pop-up message, like spam, in front of his face.
Excellent. Are you going to start hurrying in that direction as well?
Yeah, I'm gonna go as fast as I can.
Absolutely. We're going to start with Orem then, because as you hurry around the base of the tree, you can see that Tien and Telsa are already waiting for you just outside of the ship. You can see that Tien is holding something. It looks kind of like one of those Ghostbusters laser pack things, but without the backpack thing, just like the almost underslung flamethrower sort of looking thing. It looks very clunky. And as you come into view, he like props it on his knee and gives you a wave. Telsa behind them still has that huge backpack on. And also has something that looks, how would I describe this? It looks like a big ass wrench. That's going to be the best analogy I have.
Nice.
Right now. And as you come into hailing distance, Tien says, "Did you find something?"
Yes. And I'm just gonna like, as million miles a minute with my robotic ability to speak faster than a human can speak, I'm going to try and speak as fast as I can, telling them all the information we just found out.
Vomiting
that everyone's
information.
down below this. Yeah, I'm vomiting all the information. I'm just like going a million miles. I'm not stopping. I'm not noticing if they're catching everything I'm saying. I'm just talking and talking and talking and talking to get everything that we learned.
And this is as you're running
Might I-
towards them as well. Doppler effect.
Might I make a suggestion as to that?
You know what I'm picturing here? I'm picturing. Okay, so Robbie, like, have you ever had a podcast that you put on like 1.5 speed?
Yes, I
Yes,
have.
that's exactly what it's like. That's exactly what I'm doing.
Perfect. Before we go further,
Might I
Ariadne, just to follow up with
Yeah.
this real quick. As you get closer, you see that Tian is just kind of like, shut up, shut up. However, Telsa is nodding like, yep, right, all right, good, got it, fine, awesome, all right. That's awful, that sucks, and it's terrible and bad, but it's better than them all being completely gone. At least we know where they are. Where do we go?
So there is an entrance at the bottom of this tree that opens up into the tuber area. There's 3 portions of it, so we should be able to get it through here. They said that we might need to dig, we might need to cut the tree. I don't know exactly what we need to do, but hopefully that'll get us in there.
Okay, Tian, pass me. She doesn't finish her sentence and just grabs the like Ghostbusters blaster looking thing from him, and she says, "You get the hand truck." He says, "Why do I gotta get the hand truck?" And she said, "I'm not gonna use the hand truck." He says, "It's your turn to use the goddamn hand truck. I loaded the entire fucking thing on before we left." And she just,
I mean, she's the spaceship queen.
she says, "Yeah, queens don't use hand trucks, asshole." And he gives like a insufferable piece of, and then makes his way back aboard the ship. And she says, "Great, this is our welder. It's really not meant to be used for anything besides welding, but I'm guessing a tree is not going to like it. So, something."
Okay, yeah. Is she handing it to me? Or is
She is absolutely not handing it to you. She's like showing it
Okay.
because it's like it looks
I
a
was
little
like-
big for you. Yeah.
I don't know if I can hold it up. So with these arms, these noodles.
Yep. Before we go further with that, back over to Ariadne and Hippolyta. What would Ariadne like to do?
I think I would like to start off by following Orem, but they rather get away too quickly, and Ariana's like, never mind.
No.
Then just kind of awkwardly kind of shuffle back over to Hippolyta, and I think I'm going to try to enact my plan from the outside of the potato.
All right. Outside of the
Would
potato.
you like to? Yeah. Would you like to hear the overarching beats of my plan?
Please.
Beats. Lol. Anyway. So, step 1. Ensure dead facehugger. So basically, the idea would be to by the wayside the dead facehugger to discover the magical property that this plant has the ability that the sap from its severed portions can convey information to the main body it touches about how it died.
Okay, perfect. I asked for no further stuff from that, especially because you already did the paired action by picking it up to check it out earlier.
Great. So what I would want to do with that is then get the rest of my waypoints covered in a mixture of my own venom and this thing's sap, which can convey information.
God fucking damn it, that's so smart. Yes, carry on.
And then stick the waypoints into the potato to infect its network with poison, its own warning sap, and now the new message, new hosts toxic, expel immediately.
Wow. That's exactly 5 words. Holy shit. Now, as Ariadne is going about this, taking like the venom that was, or the venom that was inside the face hugger and its own sap and smearing it over the things and communicating into the waypoints, Hippolyta, you are getting towards the point where even though you know like it's not getting painful by any means, you can feel the shield wall starting to feel like it's going to be waning pretty shortly.
Yeah, okay. I figured that sort of we were probably coming up on something like that. Let me think about this. So, well, first of all, I guess I should sort of shoot off a warning to Ariadne just to let you know, I'm definitely I'm holding the hole open, but I can't hold it open forever. So just it's getting a little bit tricky to hold the hole open. Just a warning. I'm going to get back to focusing on the hole. And let me think. So, because I'm thinking it's I don't think I can just sort of extend this indefinitely. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I could do to sort of like fortify it in some way.
You've extended it a pretty decent ways already at obviously like pretty substantial expense. So trying to prolong it further or fortify it seems like it would be quite dangerous for you, if nothing
Yeah,
else.
I didn't mean like prolonging the shield wall. I'm just trying to think if there's some way that I could maybe like fortify the hole.
Oh, I
Um,
see what you mean. I see where you're going for with that, though. At the same time, there is another potential concern that Hippolyta would notice more than Ariadne, who is focusing on this. Namely, remember I was describing those tendrils rising out?
yeah.
There's quite a few of them, and they're actually getting big enough that they're starting to kind of drape over your shields and out of the hole, though your shield's innate rebuffing properties is kind of preventing them from fully doing so. They're like come up and like touch it like it's hot and then like kind of dodge back and then go in and try to like touch it again. They're clearly testing their boundaries and are trying to spill out of the hole.
Okay, here's a thought. So the total hole, it's not that deep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to so oh yeah, I know this will take a bit of a speech, but sort of I'm a bit out of it, so it's not going to be a great speech, but that's okay because I don't have to I'm not making anything very impressive. I'm going to turn to Ariadne and say, okay, it's getting a little bit tricky to hold this hole open, so I'm going to do something just to hopefully keep a path open for you and thank you so much for helping me out, and I hope that this works. And then I'm going to, what I'm going to sort of conjure here as a as a sort of a weapon or armor. Again, this is sort of more of a tool than a weapon, but I'm going to conjure a pipe, and I'm going to just put the pipe down to the tuber, and then I'm going to relax the shield wall so that now there'll just be like a pipe in the hole, so even if it closes up, we'll be able to drop things through the pipe.
So a question for you. Where Hippolyta's from is presumably like a classical age sort of society. What would be her experience with pipes as of now? I mean, I'm sure it's not just like a standard metal pipe.
So it's not, well, I mean, okay, when you say standard metal pipe, it's not what we would think of as a standard metal pipe. It is, in fact, made of lead, because this is the material that sort of, in Greco-Roman cities, people made pipes out of. It's not a very sort of it's a very sort of a large not very sort of refined pipe either, and I think the context that she would know these from is very much kind of like agriculture and sort of rudimentary sewage systems, that like these are the sorts of things that you would make out of either sort of lead or possibly clay, just to sort of to move water through sort of like a through a sewagey area or to irrigate a field or something. And it's a very crude, it's just a straightaway pipe. It's not like there are any sort of like places where you could like attach anything. It's really just sort of to keep the space open.
Of course. So I think that it's definitely verging on the possibilities of what you can make with the two arms, but I think that your lead-in was like fittingly off kilter, and your pre-existing like interactions with Ariadne makes this like a lot more plausible for me. I'm going to say that this is going to happen. However, as the pipe kind of tumbles into place ex nihilo, immediately the tendrils start to like twist around it to investigate it.
Okay, well, I feel like at this point there's a limited amount that I can do there. I guess I'm going to kind of try and pick up my sword and like try and keep the opening sort of like not really sort of go after the tendrils a lot, but just kind of like swing it around the opening so that maybe they'll sort of be a little bit discouraged from.
So are you letting the shield wall fall at this point?
Yes. Yeah.
As you release the shield wall, immediately tendrils start to kind of like squiggle their way up. But as you lop off a couple of their like feeler bulbs at the top, the one like similar to the one that opened up and grabbed Ariadne, you notice that just cutting one or two of them causes many of them to pull back from this area and start to try to investigate other areas out of the hole.
Okay.
The pipe they disregard after like a brief frenzy of interrogation. Now, after lopping off a couple of tendrils, again, they kind of steer clear of the area after you do so. Does Hippolyta have any other immediate follow-ups before I bot back to Ariadne and then to Oren?
Oh gosh, she's going to be keeping like half an eye out for more tendrils popping up, but other than that, she's just going to sit down.
Yeah.
Sort of just like, I think I've probably done what I can here. I hope this works.
And Ariadne, what do you like to do?
Well, is their pipe big enough for me to actually crawl through, or is it just like an object pipe, like
It is
only yay big?
It is an object pipe. It would be definitely big enough to drop a waypoint down, but not big enough for you to fit
Yeah.
in.
Since my waypoints are stitch markers, I think what I would like to do ideally is actually jab the points of them into the potato itself,
Mhm.
which would hopefully help convey my lie that it is being. Well, it's not exactly a lie that it's being poisoned. It is a lie that the poison is coming from the humans.
Wait,
Yeah.
Hippolyta's going to hand you a couple of. Hippolyta has arrows with her bow,
Of
and
course.
sort of like I'm not sure what you want to do in terms of how the waypoint works, but sort of it would also, I think it would be a difficult shot to like fire down a pipe like this, but like in terms of just like giving it something sort of to attach your waypoint to, if you're sort of dropping it, like the arrowheads are sharp, you could probably just use one of those.
And I should also note that
Cool.
Hippolyta could absolutely shoot down this pipe, given that it is angled, like it's not straight up and down because it's like resting against the lip of the edge. So she could absolutely shoot an arrow down it without any problem.
Okay, well, so in that case, Ariadne, if you need to, sort of attach that into the tuber down there, I could maybe, if you give it to me, I could maybe shoot down the pipe to do that.
Yes, brilliant! I love it. Let's do that.
Okay,
So I guess let's I guess attach my waypoints instead of to the potato to Hippolyta's arrows fastened
Mhm.
with can I manifest spider silk to attach them?
If you want to do something extra, you're welcome to, but waypoints are kind of implied to be able to be kind of like attached and put places by
Sticky?
default. So I'm
That's a
okay
good
with you
point,
not
yeah.
needing to do that.
Yeah, can I just like sort of fuse them in then?
I'm not sure about
Through virtue of through virtue of waypointing?
if you want to do something a little more manifesty for that, I think I'd need it. But if you just want to like affix them, I wouldn't need anything for that.
I think I should do something at least a little bit manifesty so that the magic of the waypoint can be conveyed onto the greater arrow itself.
Yeah.
And so let's have the waypoint and the arrow head both dipped in the combo of venom and sap.
In that case, dipping the arrowheads would be child's play. Like you already have the venom and sap about. And after doing so, what would you like to do?
Um,
Do you need a moment to think
just
about
sort
this?
of, yeah, I think just sort of fasten them. I think fasten them, and then what I want to do is imbue my message into the waypoint without touching the waypoint, just touching the arrow it's connected to.
Oh, that's quite clean. Yeah, I see where you're going from there.
And then hopefully the waypoint's magic will consider the arrow as to be part of the waypoint.
And remind me how many waypoints you're using for this. Is this all the remaining 5 of them, or just 1 or 2?
I think actually 4 remaining. I want to hold on to 1 for myself in case of an emergency.
And you're going to be passing these over to Hippolyta as you finish prepping them?
Yes.
And Hippolyta, as you are past the first arrow, what are you going to be doing?
So I guess I'm just going to kind of, the way I'm looking at it is we've got limited shots and I'm already kind of not feeling great. So it's this is a situation where accuracy matters a lot more than speed. So I'm going to very carefully just line up each one and just sort of carefully take my time with it and then shoot it down the pipe.
After the first hit, the response from the plant is immediate. All of the tendrils like whip up into the air like hair standing on end, and then immediately start to like scramble around the base of the pipe to try to like get to what caused the impact. The second arrow causes some of them get through to like try to figure out what's going on, but the second arrow causes them to kind of spring out and start to like go up the pipe to see what's going on. The third arrow sees them reach the top of the pipe near where you are, and by the time of the fourth pipe, or the fourth arrow, they seem to have realized where the threat is coming from. Before we get to that, however, let's jump back over to Orem alongside Telsa and Tian.
Okay, so Telsa's got the
The welder.
The welding gun?
Yeah.
Ooh, that does not seem so. Ariadne's probably going to be proud of me for this one, but Telsa, can I see that for a second? I know it's too big for me.
Yes, of course. She passed it
Okay,
over.
so I grab it and I say, I learned this on a DIY internet forum. Fun fact, and I put it on the ground. This model, and I raise my foot up and stomp on the top cap of it in the front. This cap is a limiter, and I stomp on it to break it off.
Oh, that's so sick.
This will permanently damage your welder. I apologize. And then the trigger, I break it forward so that it's stuck and it begins to work like forward. You can do this to turn it into a plasma cutter. And the front of it starts shooting out like plasma that can be used to cut down the tree.
God, I love that so much. That's a perfect sequence.
That fact is very fun.
Yeah. The jet that emerges is initially like, it's a fucking welding gun, like used to work on spaceships. So the jet is, while short range, like 3-4 feet, it's it's a fucking welding gun. It's pretty strong. But as soon as you like crank and like lock the trigger, it doubles in length and width. It also starts to give off a crackling noise and emit a small amount of smoke.
Okay, so you better get going quick because it's going to melt it.
What am I supposed to be melting?
You need to cut down that tree. This will do it, but it's going to destroy your
cut
gun.
Down the fucking tree. It's huge.
Because that's how we're going to get down into the tuber.
Can I cut the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Jeez. She lifts up the welding gun gingerly, like whipping her hand around. Shit, it's hot. Tian! Gloves! Ow! And then starts, like, after a moment, she takes, like, a bandana off her head and wraps it around her forward hand as she proceeds towards the tree, and the welding gun starts to rip into the tree's body. She clearly is used to using this thing, at least a little bit, and starts to carve a neat little, like, archway in the bottom that, as she does so, you notice, first of all, the welding gun obliterates the tree matter in a very neat little, like, laser cutting line. And you can see that the tree's body, past the point that it has cut, is actually almost completely hollow, much like the tuber itself. Telsa is not in position to do this, especially because the welding gun is demanding a lot of her attention. So as she is going in for another pass, which you could see would be like completely wasted because she's already cut through the outside, what would you like to do?
Well, I don't want to get in the way while it's still going, but once she finishes, it should run out of like power after a bit. It'll melt the nozzle and it'll stop being able to be used after a little bit. And then I want to like push in the doorway she's created so that I can get inside.
You can see that as she kind of like pulls the weapon away and eventually gingerly sets it on the ground where it begins to like torch all the nearby grass. It doesn't start a fire because it's quite damp here, but it still is just going to like completely obliterate the surroundings. You try to push it in. You're too weak. She puts her shoulder against it. The two of you are too weak. And then Tian comes out and does like a running drop kick into it. And the three of you together manage to get it open. And opening into the tree, Telsa says, sorry, Tim, we got, the welder's not going to be coming back from this one. He says, I don't fucking care. We're going to get off this place. What else? Well, listen, let me take this and try to get the roots free. So once we get people aboard, we can, she says, no, hand truck, I'll do the welding. He says,
oh man, that's so good.
Fine, I hope you get burned, and passes her the gloves.
We are going to need to be able to carry them out. We do need the hand truck.
I know we need the hand truck. I just don't want to go in the fucking tree. He still falls into step behind you as Telsa, taking the like smoldering and smoke spewing welder, goes hurrying over to the side of the ship to try to cut through as much of the roots as possible. Now, as you and Tian take a few steps into the body of the tree, it is... I'm sure you've played Legends of Zelda. Excuse me, my camera. I'm sure you've played Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Great Deku Tree. Right? It's vast. You can see all the way up to the top. There's like natural architecture to the interior that makes it very climbable. And also, you can see below you, there is, or rather right in front of you, there are a couple of almost like flumes that lead out from the base of the tree, like, you know, at the top of a water slide, how there's always like a couple of entrances that you can go down different winding routes? It's like those, right? And additionally, the tendrils topped with their grabbing feelers are gently wavering all up and down the tree, kind of lazily emerging from different points on it and kind of feeling things out and then touching down. And you can see that quite a few of them are kind of congregated around the door, clearly trying to feel out what was going on with all the heat. Telsa, you see, pauses when she sees them and freezes up, or as she's like walking away with the well, and she says, "Need me to burn them? I can burn them."
No, they're not going to hurt me, but you guys should be really careful around this. They'll grab organic material.
Great. Tien takes the big wrench that Telsa was holding and tightens his hand around it as he gently pushes the hand truck forward. It's hovering, by the way, so he only needs to kind of like manage it rather than actually push it. Or like actually like force it, you know? As you take a couple steps in, the tendrils like again kind of tap against you and touch against you, but leave you alone almost immediately. A few of them tap against the hand truck. And Tien just kind of like gingerly pushes them away with the wrench to prevent them from getting close enough to touch his feet.
I guess I can take this hand truck from here. Wish me luck, and I will grab that from Tien and try to. Can I fit down these flumes?
Yes,
like,
you can.
How big
and
are they?
the hand truck can too. They're like the size of a doorway, like quite large.
Okay, I'm going to hop on the hand truck and push it into down one of the flumes, like I'm riding on a little. Like,
Wait, by yourself?
Sled. Yeah, I don't want you guys getting hurt, and it's too late. I'm already gone.
And as you do so, it's the weirdest feeling. Imagine going down a hallway that's getting wider. As you are in it, the walls of the hallway are literally widening. When you first enter this flume, you can see that like it tapers towards a much more narrow point you definitely couldn't pass through. But as you're moving in, it's widening like not as you walk, because you would pause it a moment for like at least one moment and it would keep widening, but just like it is naturally widening of its own accord as you are moving your way inside, making it a lot easier to maneuver the hand truck for one, especially because it's not perfectly smooth. There's like organic matter and divots and veins and things all over the place. There also are many fewer tendrils, at least in this section. Anything that Orem would like to do, it is very dark, but the hand truck conveniently has a little like set of headlights on it.
I just want to see where I can go from here. Can I only go one direction forward?
Yes, this like there were there were 3 possible flume entrances. This one only goes forward.
Okay, my plan is to follow that as far as it will take me.
Yep. And you don't have to walk very long. You walk for maybe 30 seconds before you emerge into a much wider room. You can see all around you are stasis pods. There are people inside of them who are still asleep, but the ground is absolutely covered, like almost to the point where you're splashing in it as you're walking, with the fluid that is you know what I mean, like what's the word for it? The base, the fluid base of the tank, the stuff that the people are immersed in. And there's clearly a big holding cell of right behind each individual stasis pod.
Okay. I see him. Squish. Let's see. Let me think. What do I want to do with this? You can't. Okay, I'm going to go up to these, each one, investigate them, and try and tell if I can see if the people inside are still alive. Is the glass still on it? Is it the glass still
Yes,
intact?
the glass on almost all of them are intact. A few have hairline fractures. You cannot see any signs that anyone are dead, but then again, they are in stasis. You also can see that each individual cell, the cells still have power. They clearly have backup batteries of some kind. And you can see that all of them display vital signs for everyone inside. So unless any of them are bugging out, everyone here is still alive.
Okay. And how are there like roots and tendrils attached into these from the tuber?
Exactly.
Okay,
There are
and
ones
where
that
is
are kind of like trying to hold them a little bit in place, but also each one has a tendril directly connecting to the fluid pack on the back of the pod. Now, that being said, as you are entering the room, you can see that there's movement and quite a lot of it. The grabbing portions that are holding the pods in place are in the process of relinquishing, though they are made of thicker, more woody material than the tendrils and move much slower. The tap roots that are connected to the fluid packs are also pulling back, though these are more classic tendrils, just much thicker than you've seen before. And there are other smaller tendrils that are formed from the walls and literally pushing the pods away from them to like get them out into the middle of into the middle of the tuber's chamber.
So they might be just after the fluid, because the fluid would be lots of nutrients that keeps the people alive in there. And if everyone's still alive and their vitals look good, am I able to? I'm going to look into the glass for any of the tendrils inside with
Excellent
the people.
question. None.
Okay, we're in a good spot. This could be pretty good. I am going to use my knowledge of computers and especially these models, because apparently these are like pretty common models that people use for cryostasis, to use the pad where it's at to try and open them, to open the first one I see.
Absolutely. Where Orem is from, these would be considered kind of primitive, by the way. And
Yeah.
as you tap the open key, it does require a passcode.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It works.
Yeah, let's go. They
TM
always do it.
TM tells the security levels, and as you do so, the glass gives a hiss, and you hear a rushing, gushing splash as nutrients come flooding out. You notice, though, that the tendrils retreat from it, immediately like spooked away by it, and the person who flops out comes like flopping down onto the tubered floor. She kind of blearily gasps and spits out a mouthful of the nutrient like liquid, and looks up blearily. She says, "What? Why am I thought."
Hey there. Hey, calm down. Calm down. Don't think too hard about it. You open it. You're a little early. There was some things that happened. Oh, this is gonna be bad. What I need you to do is stay calm and don't think too hard. That's what I need you to do. Also, make sure you cough up the rest of that, because that's not good for your stomach.
She splutters on the ground. She says, "Did we do an emergency opening?"
Yes, we did, but we've got everything under control. Things are gonna be fine.
Okay.
Don't panic.
Ow. Now, as she's kind of coming to, are you going to be moving to some of the other pods and doing a similar routine here?
I'm actually going to wait. I'm going to wait for a second, and I want to know how the tuber around me is responding to the movement of another person who's not, like, I'm metal, so and this is organic material. I need to know if I'm putting her in danger right now.
The tendrils seem interested, but they refuse to go near the nutrient sludge that she is currently absolutely coated in.
Ooh, so it's the opposite of what I thought. I see. So maybe they're trying to break in, but the nutrient sludge is keeping them safe because the nutrient sludge isn't good for them. I'm saying this all out loud because every time I think of something new, or like my character starts saying it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other person's like barely awake.
She's completely bleary.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What did you say your name was? They didn't say it, obviously.
She blinks for a second. She says, Gila, hi.
Okay, Gila, this may sound very weird, but I actually need you to stop, drop, and roll a little bit. I know it's gross, but all the liquid on the floor, I need you covered in it.
No, that's all right. This is my first emergency. I've never gone through the process before. She rolls in the liquid on the ground. She kind of shakes her head and says, "Do I have to
spread it everywhere? Your whole, your face, your hair. You gotta.
All right.
This is normal procedure. It happens every time. You'll get used to it. I know.
She says, I see why this is an emergency. This sucks.
I try to lead her towards the entrance that I came in.
Absolutely. Before we go further, let's jump back to Hippolyta and Ariadne. Hippolyta has just fired the 4th arrow, and the tendrils, having tried to desperately investigate where the other things were coming from, now seem to have realized that they're originating from beyond the top of the pipe. And a mass of tendrils, almost like the gush of water out of a fire hydrant, though moving slower, come shooting up and over the top of the pipe towards Hippolyta and Ariadne.
Okay, so Polito's going to I think get the hell out of Dodge. She's gonna just jump backwards and it's Ariadne has shown that she's incredibly capable. Probably she had a plan. Also, Polito's not thinking very straight, so I think she's gonna kind of like jump out of the way and then just like take off.
Absolutely. Does Hippolyta have a plus to vigor? I know she has one in reflex.
No, I've got let's see. I have a plus to reflex and a plus to a double plus to resilience, but just normal vigor.
Absolutely. And Ariadne, actions from you. You're a little further away than Hippolyta from the explosion of tendrils. What would you like to do?
I feel like I could maybe dissuade it from attacking by trying to block with my walking stick, which makes it perceive me as less of a threat if that's the only weapon that I'm carrying.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Are you going to be lifting the stick?
yeah, I'm gonna lift up the stick and see if they can just kind of wrap around that instead of me.
Tendrils immediately set upon it and start to grab at it, but also
And I'm gonna be like, no, I'm just an old lady.
And as a couple
I don't
more
know if it
move,
speaks English. I'm just throwing it out there.
a couple more make their ways to your hands and glom onto them and pull you forwards onto your face.
No, I'm poisonous. Remember, I am not food.
As Ariadne is being dragged forward a little bit, Hippolyta, you're a little ways away, having sprung backwards or fleeing the scene. The massive tendrils, rather than like following you through midair, they dive in and out of the ground like the coils of a sea serpent.
Ooh, well, okay, let me think about this. Did I take my sword with me or did I leave it on the ground?
The sword is on the ground nearer to Ariadne.
Can I, as I'm being dragged, can I kind of kick it over to Hippolyta?
Ooh, you definitely don't have the strength to get it that far, but you would be able to grab it. Or grab it insofar as your hands being grabbed by tendrils would let you, like, you could still move your hand and get your fingers around it, if not swing it effectively.
Actually, wait, did I jump back with my bow?
Yes, your bow is in your hands.
Okay, so then I'm gonna try and basically aiming wide clear of Ariadne. I'm gonna shoot sort of closer to the base of where these things are shooting up from the ground. Just kind of, my aim is just to kind of get some sort of hits in to nick them to maybe scare them away.
Absolutely. Firing off one arrow and moving and shooting is not going to be a problem at all for Hippolyta, especially with a plus to skill. You see that your first hit causes some of the ones that are attacking you and Ariadne to break away as new tendrils kind of reemerge around where the injury was suffered as they try to figure out what's going on. Your second injury causes like twice as many to break away, clearly as they're like, where is this damage coming from? You know what I mean? So you still have a few pursuing you, but it's far fewer, and Ariadne now has one hand completely free. Ariadne's been dragged forward maybe 2 yards. Actions from her as Hippolyta is shooting.
I want to use my free hand to toss the sword to Hippolyta.
Grab, flung over your shoulder. Hippolyta, it's not going to be a toss that you can catch in your hand, but it will land on the ground not far away from you.
Okay, yeah. So I guess, well, let's see. To what degree, like, what distance am I now from Ariadne, and what also, like, how close are the tendrils to me?
So you've had to do a little bit of a loop if you're going to be shooting at the base, because obviously if you just shoot straight, like if you're running straight away, you'll just hit like the body that's rushing towards you. So you've done a bit of a loop around, which actually puts you a little closer to Ariadne. She would be between you and the tendrils, probably like 3/4 of the way that far. And additionally, the ones that are behind you are like 2 or 3 running paces behind you.
Okay. Well, let's see. And so Ariadne's got one hand free, and the other are they coming straight out of the ground at her the sort of the ones that are still on her?
No, once again, they've kind of like laced in and out of the ground and are mostly around her hand, like one of her hands.
Like, so basically coming up from directionally wise, are they sort of, do any of them loop around closer to where I am is what I'm asking.
That's an excellent question.
Got it. Okay, so I'm going to just basically, if there's one that I see that's like looped around closer to where I am that I also see connects to Ariadne, I'm just going to slash at it.
Absolutely. Grab and slash. And this causes, like, obviously a little ways away, one of the other ones on her hand to kind of wriggle free as a few more disconnect from Ariadne, enough that she can finally get to her feet. Does she wish to do so? And if so, what are going to be her follow-up actions? She has maybe one or two thin tendrils still connecting to her left hand.
Well, I do want to get to my feet. Might be time to break out the nostrum. I'm not sure.
Well, while you're considering, Hippolyta, after striking that, the mass that's behind you, now far less of like a solid rush and now like a distribution of winding tendrils, each moving in coordination, but at different paces and and different like individualities to the movement, is now more like one running pace behind you. What would you like to do?
Jeez, I guess keep running. Like, sort of okay, like, I don't want to just. I don't want to leave Ariadne totally in the lurch, but also, like, I feel like my first instinct was a good one, that sort of that we should get the hell out of Dodge. So I
So
think
do you
I'm
want to be
going.
running towards her or back towards the ship? They are in opposite directions from your
Yeah,
current
that's kind of what I'm
position.
thinking. Decisions. Okay, how does it look like? So she's partially free, but not entirely free. Body language wise, Ariadne, how much do you look like you have a handle on this? Okay, so then I guess I'm gonna turn towards Ariadne and basically just sort of like as I go, just kind of slash at sort of anything that presents itself, not trying to do like major damage, really just trying to scare things off, because it doesn't seem like this attack is very like it's big and it's dangerous, but it doesn't seem like that sort of subtle or coordinated. So I'm just trying to kind of give them the sense that like there are places they'd rather be than right here.
Absolutely. And once you reach Ariadne, what do you want to do or say to her?
I think my plan is just to kind of to free her entirely and say, let's get out of here, and point at the ship and sort of
It takes one easy swing to free the remainder of her hands. What would Ariadne like to do?
Let's get out of here.
That's
The two of you have to begin with a small loop, but after that have a straight shot to the ship. The tendrils, you notice, you've led them in a long enough wind that they seem to have run out of length and actually dive back into the ground before retreating quickly all the way back to the tuber.
oh my god. Yeah, I just running straight to the ship, but like that's good news, I guess, sort of.
Meanwhile, Oren, you and Gila, the woman that you've just met, have made your way back up into the body of the tree, and you there can see that there's Tian waiting for you just outside the front. He has his wrench, and he also seems to have procured like a metal chair from the ship and is just kind of like poking things away that get close. But once you come to view, he says, "Holy shit, there's someone!" Oh my god. Yes, 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 yes. Insurance premiums are not going as high as they could be.
So I have the solution that they're in you guys' primitive cryostasis things.
Thanks.
They don't seem to like that. So if I can get them covered in that, they won't touch it.
They don't like the suspension? I got tons of that. Okay, wait. I got something for you.
Go grab some. I will say, my plan, I'm going back in there, but I don't think I can get the pods out too. They seem to be grabbing those and attaching onto them. I'm going to see what I can do, but otherwise I'm just going to wake the rest of them up.
Don't you worry. Hey, come with me for a second. If they don't like suspension, then we are in the clear, baby. Speaking of which, Taos. Yeah? How's it going? Welder melted, but got a lot of the roots off. He says, okay, Taos, fire up the engine. I think we might be out of here pretty quick. He runs over to the back of the ship, and you see that as he does so, he taps into a keypad, pulls two heavy levers, a big hydraulic door opens up, and past that, you can see that there's almost like a car's gas cap. This he spins, pulls it open, and from inside pulls out a big fire hose looking thing.
Let's go.
He says, we gotta load up on suspension every time we are in, and we need to expel spent suspension. This'll be fun.
Suspension.
He says, "Can you uncoil more of that thing for me? I'm going to walk this over the tree."
Me?
No. Her. She says, "What? Do it." Okay. She starts to like dreamily unwind hose.
Cool.
What would
cool,
Orm
cool.
like to do?
Orem is like, okay, yeah. Just start spraying it down, and I'm gonna like kind of gesture towards the 3 separate pathways that are in there.
Mhm.
Start spraying it down that pathway, and I'm gonna go get the rest of everyone else.
Right. Easily done. As he does so, he yells over his shoulder, "Turn the winch!" Yeah, the winch. No, that's a lever. Winch. Thank you. Jesus. Civilians. And then
She
there's
did
like,
just wake up, to be fair.
yeah, whatever. You hear a chugging noise, and then with a glutinous mixture goes rocketing out of the end of the hose down the 3 flumes, and there is an immediate groaning within the tree. The ground shakes and bows slightly, and you can see within, like, you can actually still move down safely inside, but you feel a dilation within the tree and then a contraction.
Oh shit.
You can see, as you don't have to walk as far as last time, the cells, the pods, are being literally expelled up the tube towards you.
Oh, gross! I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna like sprint, try to slide, but not like fall over in all this goo, but to try and get it down there as fast as I possibly can. I know that it's like shrinking, which is great and bad. I'm going to try and run by every single one of them and just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep.
Hopefully get them all to just like pop open, and then on repeat, I'm just going to be yelling, everyone up, let's get going. It's
Absolutely.
an emergency drill.
You hear the groaning, woozy sounds of people as you do so. But at this point, Hippolyta and Ariadne, you come up in the round of the tree to see the hose leading in, and Tian cat like, eat shit, literally.
What a dick. I love it.
Actions from the 2 of you.
Seems like you've got things under control.
Wait. Don't go. He points, he says, "People, they're waking up. They need someone to get them out of there."
Okay, so here's a question. So how am I doing threshold-wise?
Threshold-wise, you are the high middle of yellow on your essence, and you're at the like low end of green on your stamina.
Okay, because so here's sort of a weird one. People are kind of waking up and they're sort of like bleary and covered in goop and sort of fumbling around, right?
Mhm.
Would it be possible to so this I feel like would be, again, a little bit stretching what 2 arms can do. But rather than sort of, they're kind of along a path, right?
Mhm.
Rather than exactly, so this is something that all of them could use at the same time, but it's kind of a single object. Could I make it so that there's just sort of a, what do you call it? Like a, some sort of like a thing to, like a rope or a thing to grip onto, sort of the way for them, so
It's
that
one of those climbing harnesses where everyone is tied into it.
Exactly, yeah. Something kind of like that.
If we actually add a belt to that, I'd actually be more okay with it because it feels a little bit more like armor at that point.
Okay, so because what I'm basically just picturing is something so that everyone can kind of be a little bit sort of steadier, and also like so that no one's going to get sort of
Absolutely. And what's going to be your paired action here?
I'm going to sort of to get up and yell, ladies, it is time to evacuate. We sort of please head in this direction, and I'm going to kind of do a sort of a dramatic gesture and point and direct where the ladies and other more elderly women should go.
Make sure to roll around in the solution, as is per the normal procedure that you always do.
And Ariadne, Orem and Ariadne, but starting with Orem, you're punching in codes as fast as you can. Unfortunately, since the tree is expelling the pods, this is a lot faster and easier than it would otherwise be. But there's no way you're going to be able to do all of this fast. Like there's 23 of these things to get through, and there's a lot of slippering and sliding between them. Are you going to be deputizing anyone, or are you going to be saying or doing anything else?
Ariadne, the code's 12345. I know that's lazy. Could you hit the other side for me?
Very lazy.
Shut up!
Can
You
I
make
pick
up a code.
2768?
So much better. See, Ariadne's fast. Anyway, I'm still like.
Yep.
Do I still have my spider shovel?
Yes, you do.
Can I pitch that there's a large boulder nearby that I could maybe kind of turn over with this thing? Because I would like a large spider.
Oh, I see what you were going for here. We're going to say maybe not a boulder, but like a rock that is the size of like an ottoman would be feasible, I think, here.
Ottoman-sized rock is good. I kind of want something to help move the pods themselves onto the ship as well, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because like if they can recover the pods, even
Yeah.
better. They only want us to recover the passengers, but like
I think
passengers
the
with
pods are
pods would be nice.
attached, though, right?
They
had, like,
were
roots
attached.
attached to them.
They were attached, but the potato started abandoning them because of the stuff that Hippolyta
the
and I
signal.
pulled. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I will say, as Ariadne is going in to tap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these pods look fucking destroyed. They like maybe not ripped apart, destroyed, but like bent and molded out of shape, and like many cases filled up with like tree matter and in like certain outlet ports and things. It would be kind of shocking if any of these things were usable from what you know about technology.
All right. Okay, so we can leave behind the pods for now, and then if there's time to recover them, we could maybe do that.
Yep.
In the meantime, then, I think what I would like to do instead is have my big rock spider help direct people. And I'm going to, I guess, sort of announce... Oh, can I, with my vitality, attention, grabbing this thing, I'd like to put out an announcement. Please do not fear the rock spider. They're here to help. They're quite docile. Your name is Bitsy. Make sure people stay on their feet, make sure they're covered in goo, and make sure they head back to the spaceship.
I'm going to say that Bitsy is a big enough use that it's going to consume the final 2 uses of that by the wayside. However, after receiving this instruction, Bitsy goes trottling off down the last flume. At this point, Hippolyta has conjured the like walking harnesses attached by line. Orem has finished one entire flume and is working on a second, and Ariadne can work on the third flume. In the meantime, Tian is turning the suspension goo gun to coat the rest of the inside of the tree, especially the path you're walking from here back to the ship. And people are already starting to proceed outside. Over the next less than 15 seconds, you manage to recover the last of the people from their suspension pods. Actions from Hippolyta as people are starting to move out in orderly queues, escorted by the cackling Tian and Bitsy, the rock spider.
I want to ask
real
Oren,
quick, Hippolyta first, just so I can check in here. Yep.
Just basically the does it take upkeep to maintain the harness, by the way, or
no? Whenever you conjure something with 2 arms, it is until the end of the mission permanent, unless someone betrays you, in which case it magically vanishes early.
Okay, so then I think we're good. Basically, I'm just going to be walking along and giving people encouragement and trying to sort of direct them out. But sort of that's
Yep.
about what I'm going to be doing.
And as Hippolyta does so, she hears one of the strangest noises of her life. A whirring, building roar. It sounds like thunder mixed with horses, mixed with water. Orem knows exactly what's going on. The ship is turning on. And Ariadne, you had an action for Orem as the 2 of you are escorting the last groups out of the tree.
I want to ask Orem, do you have anything you can do to make sure this is all sorted, make sure we're not missing anything or anybody?
Yes, but hold on. Real quick before I answer that question, I counted the number of people who left, right?
You did.
Okay, so as for this part of things in this area, no, I'm good. I've got nothing I want to do. But when we leave, there is something I want to do. When
Absolutely.
we leave the little tuber.
You guys at this point
here?
are leaving the mouth of the tree. So you're actually back in open air and moving towards the spaceship, which is currently taking on passengers. Tian has at this point bringing the hose back over to wind it back up. He's sending the person, Gila, who is still bleary, back aboard from her deputized position. And he's yelling incoherently to Telsa, probably telling her to get the ship going. You hear at this point an intercom coming over the outside of the ship. Attention passengers, been a bit of a hiccup, huge hiccup, worst hiccup of all time, bad hiccup. Get aboard and please buckle yourselves in with whatever you have. There might be, I don't know, a piece of leather or something that you can use. Just find something to hold on to so that we can get the hell out of here. And that includes the 3 weirdos who showed up out of nowhere. Thank you very much for your help.
Okay, so as he's saying that, I want to walk around. So is there still a giant opening in the ship where they were taken out of?
So they were taken out of the front door, or like the disembarkation door of the ship, which was closed when you guys arrived, but showed signs of severe damage. So it probably was closed with difficulty. What do you want to do?
Okay, so what I want to do is I want to see if I can use catalog to tidy everything up so that it works properly and so that seating is arranged within the inside so that people can be strapped in and they can take off cleanly.
And how are you going to activate it? How are you going to activate? What's the paired action?
There's no way that you guys are going to be if the airlock is going to be safe with this like this. You guys will fly out the door. So we need to get this cleaned up lickety split. And I'm going to snap my fingers.
That's a beautiful use of catalog. First of all, plant matter comes whipping out of the ship, including from like the grooves and divots within the airlock door, freeing up a lot of its internal gaskets. And second of all, even though the pods are gone, they did have emergency fold-out seating from the walls, which starts to flip down into place with little safety harnesses connected up to it. After cleaning out the inside of the ship, the airlock door, as the last people are getting aboard, Tien gives it like a kick with his foot, and then like hitting a low pedal on it, and it actually starts to close of its own accord rather than needing to be closed manually. As he is doing so, he says, "Okay, on," beckoning to the 3 of you.
And are people being seated and buckled with catalog?
Yes,
Great.
Or not with catalog, but they are.
The seatbelts are grabbing people and pulling them into the seat to put.
You know what? I like it. Let's do it.
I kind of want to add my nostrum to the catalog and tell Orem, get everybody 30 milliliters of that stuff.
What's it do?
It's espresso.
Oh, nice. Let's go.
I think that should convey both its healing property and its downside pretty succinctly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And as you're hurried aboard, any final actions from Hippolyta?
Wait. I'm sorry, Hippolyta.
I'm glad that other people seem to know what's happening because I haven't got a clue. But like, if it was bad, they'd probably tell me, right?
Mm-hmm. And yes, Oren?
So as the catalog is cleaning these up and I am like making sure it's all good, the question I need to know though, was there a tree monster? Was there ever a tree monster? Did it grab them out? Or was it just roots?
Well, it depends on how you define monster.
I think
that's probably true.
And I think on that note, you feel your Enclave badges pulse gently with energy.
Oh! I think that's mine. I have to take this.
I think that's my cue. I think it was great meeting all of you ladies, and then I'm sort of gonna tap out.
Tien, the last thing Hippolyta hears is Tien saying, "You too, sir." And on that note, we will end the mission.
That was awesome.
We did it! We saved them!
Wow.
Well done!
I'm going to have to tap out reasonably shortly, but before I do so, let's briefly give a little quick breakdown. I want to, and if you guys want to stick around after I tap out, then please feel free to do so if you want to discuss or bop over to one of the other voice channels to go over. But just to quickly go from my perspective, first of all, holy ever-loving shit, Greg. You are so good at manifestation. That is unreal.
I love it.
And the way, so the nutrient sludge was what this suspension was what the plants were after. That was the reason they grew so fast, because that was like the perfect food for them. And then you saying this is toxic made them be like, oh shit, this is the worst thing. Get rid of this stuff. And so that single-handedly probably shaved like an hour off of what you guys were doing. That was a fucking
Nice.
ingenious move, and I loved it. Unbelievable. And so, second thing I wanted to touch upon, Hippolyta, that shield wall was fucking badass. And you found the perfect backstory connection with the bow, because the analogy I was using synced up so fucking well with it. And then kind of the relationship that Hippolyta and Ariadne kind of developed in the process. I loved that. And Hippolyta's a very fun fish out of water. And unlike a lot of fish out of water, she doesn't get like boring and tedious because of it, because you're leveraging it for benefit, and also keeping up the you did a very good job of keeping level amidst the group being clearly outgunned by a much more dangerous enemy. Obviously, I designed the mission such that Orim would have the easiest time with this thing, but Orim could have gotten attacked too, because the tubers, or pardon, the tubers tendrils were able to force the door to the ship. I didn't specify over how long of a time, but they were able to do it, because that metal was on the menu if it meant getting in the way of food.
Yeah.
So just fit the role perfectly. Your bow use was sick. The shield walls were fantastic and just overall great. I'd say the one miss is that there were some really good Gareth opportunities. That was the one miss.
Yeah.
And also great use
of
of
things to do again. I actually forget that one.
It is okay. So I will read the description. Draw and hold the attention of all enemies in earshot while simultaneously making them more cautious or hesitant. Allies may join in your paired action to intensify the ability's effects.
No,
Like
there were a couple of situations where afterwards I was like, oh darn, if there was something else I could have done, but
yeah. I think that though that being said, also brilliant character work. Your character felt very there and was responding believably. And honestly, Orim, Jonny, that was a fucking amazing first showing. For someone who has not played the game before, you took to it so effortlessly and not only pulled off some really good energy work. That fun fact was sick. That was so perfect. And then your knowledge's powers were
such a great use of fun fact.
It was.
I would never have considered something like that.
Your knowledge's powers were all good. The catalog at the end was literally perfect. I didn't even think of that one. It was so good. And I love Orim as a character. They're fun and endearing and have major weaknesses but major strengths. And because you kind of leaned into the vast limitations of Orim's physiognomy, it made me way more comfortable with letting you get away with other elements of the character, which is just smart character design from your part. I loved all of the characters on this mission. Beautifully colorful and worked together in a marvelous way. Any questions that you guys have for me about specific calls or plot points or things like that? And more broadly, any thoughts that you have about the mission? I'd love to hear them.
Robbie, is that this was so much fun. This was a really good one. It was sort of as sort of an interesting an interesting setting, a sort of an interesting I felt like there was lots that all of us could do. It was a really fun mission.
That's wonderful to hear, because designing for a combat character and more non-combat characters is always tough, and I tried to come up with a threat that would pose a cool puzzle for especially Orim to interface with, that also gave Hippolyta something to protect them against, and I think that she did so with flying colors.
Yeah. I
wonder
Hippolyta
if we could
made
have...
for a great protector. Yeah, no. That's it.
You're good. I was gonna say, I wonder if we could have gotten away with just letting okay, you turned their food source against them, but I wonder if we could have gotten away with just giving them the food source, because they didn't want the people anyway.
Oh, they would have eaten the people. The people were just much lower priority. There's just
so we had time.
You did.
Okay.
And using that food source against them actually was one of the best ways you could have. When I was designing the mission, I was like, okay, that's the standard way to solve it. But in the process, you would be making them quite strong and quite aggressive, because they'd be like, food. You're telling me this tin can has even more goodies inside of it? Let's attack it.
Oh shit, that's true.
And so that's a much more action sequence way of concluding the mission, but still would definitely have worked, assuming nothing catastrophic happened. But yeah, you're thinking in the right direction.
Cool.
Any other
thoughts? We should do it again.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Greg, from your perspective, being a seasoned Enclave player who's taking up this particular rule set for the first time, what are your thoughts about the mission and about the way that you got to kind of more uniquely interface with the game than what we would normally have in Legacy?
Yes. Well, I loved the mission. Classic
Wonderful.
Robbie, top tier quality.
Thanks.
Um, um, and I love Arcane works differently in this game, a lot differently than I think it has ever worked in the Legacy game. And I think that makes it such an insanely strong energy work tool. And
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And I mean, you did a great job of teching, not only showcasing what Trips Arcane can do, but also it's far from a catch-all solution to everything. Like, there were plenty of situations that Ariadne got, like, absolutely smashed. But I will... Oh, quick note. Your walking stick was a brilliant idea, but the plants didn't see you as a threat in the first place. They saw you as food. So...
I guess that would do it.
Yeah.
I was hoping at that point that they would see me as poison, but I didn't realize the message I was sending is not... monkey-shaped things are poison. It was actually broth is poison.
Precisely. And it was a tricky interaction that I was like, I can't really see a way to call it any other way than this right now, but I'm glad I got a chance to clarify it. And I'm glad you're getting a chance to play around with Arcane, because it's something that you are unbelievably good at after even just one instance of using this version of the stat.
Yeah. It's fun, and I like going crazy with magic. I think the only thing I like comparably well to going crazy with magic is being a sort of sneaky outsmarter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which speaks very, very much to my first two Legacy characters.
Yeah. And I think the one other thing I would mention is that part of my design for this mission, and it was a bit of an in-joke. The reason I decided the enemy being a tuber was because of an in-joke from Legacy that both Ray and Greg knew and picked up on. Namely that at one point I had a talking... like
I had a feeling.
Yeah, people communicated with a potato at one point on a very early Enclave mission. And I was like, oh, let's do that, but like a little more robust. And
I appreciated that in-joke.
Lovely. And I hope that you enjoyed the way that I brought in your focus words of ancient, spaceship, and lost in the woods on this particular one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
It was like I loved the setting for this. It felt like a very sort of dynamic, interesting, because one thing is like, because so many D&D adjacent games tend to be in that very sort of high fantasy setting, one of the things I've always really loved about Enclave is you can just, like, your settings can be like anything, and I think this really showcases that.
That's wonderful. Oh, and shit, one more thing I want to touch upon before I sign us off is, remember early on you heard the whisper sound like free us? If you had asked Telsa and Tien about it, they would have been like, what the hell are you talking about? It was actually the word Rios, which was another name for the suspension gel. And I was like, if they picked that up, then they could like try to find a way to like draw that connection line beforehand. But it didn't end up being a threat.
If we had heard it right, yes, if we had heard it correctly, Rios, we would say it to them, and they go, "That's the name of the suspension." Stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. Okay. So that was another way I was thinking of how to get you to that potential solution a little bit earlier, just to let you in on my thought process. And
I wonder, like,
oh yeah,
is there a degree to which we could have like trained the potato by offering it suspension rewards for good behavior?
I would have been totally on board with a solution like that, but it would have been dangerous.
Yeah, because he had said that by feeding it, it might get stronger, and then it might want to tear into the ship and grab what's in there. So that's
what made me wonder. Like, oh, could we have used this thing to like manipulate it?
Absolutely. But maybe door. I gotta wrap up. Literally, I'm in the process of wrapping up. If you can prevent the child from screaming into the room. I know. I'm happy. Pardon me. He's about to go to bed, and he's not happy about it.
Aw, sad.
Yeah. Don't worry, buddy. I'll be with you in a moment. Very good. Excellent. And thank you all so much for playing. It was great playing with you. And thanks to everyone who is watching, both live in chat and on YouTube. If you guys want to at all bop into a voice channel afterwards and be my absolute guest, I got to go put the baby to bed. And I can't wait to do this again with you all. But until that point, my name is Robbie Howell. Give your little outros and order of your intros, if you wouldn't mind.
I'm Ray.
Greg.
And I'm Jonny.
And ciao for now, everyone. Yeah.
So it was
Excellent.
good.